As soon as he said the name Taylor, the nurse's eyes widened, and without a word, she simply pointed down the hall. Wade thought, all right, I'll just find her room then. As he walked down the hall, he saw officers approaching him, telling him to turn around and to put his hands on the wall. Police took him in handcuffs to the police station, and there he learned that Taylor was not pregnant, and that she was involved in the murder of 21-year-old Reagan Hancock, that she had cut her unborn baby out of her. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. So the other day I watched this movie called Stolen Baby, The Murder of Heidi Broussard starring Emily Osment. And I was shocked by this movie. I just couldn't believe that someone did this in real life, that someone betrayed their friend and stole their baby to pass off as her own. As I was looking more into it, I came across another similar case that occurred in 2020. 21-year-old Reagan Michelle Simmons Hancock was brutally murdered, and her unborn baby, Braxton Sage, was forcibly taken from her womb. All of this happened at the hands of 27-year-old Taylor Renee Parker. Now Taylor, she is just an awful person. Like, she is truly someone that is evil, and she is someone who made up this huge web of lies that ultimately led to her committing this terrible crime. Now, navigating this case and putting all of this information together was honestly a journey. There is an enormous amount of information, of lies created and made up characters to go over. I will link the court document down below if you guys want to check it out and read more details. It's a really long court document, but that is basically where I got the majority of the information from. I did my best to give you guys as much information as possible, but of course I couldn't include every single lie that Taylor said or every single fake character that she made up, because there are simply way too many layers to each lie, and it's just a lot. My condolences and my heart goes out to Reagan's loved ones. I sincerely hope that they are finding the strength to cope with the horrible and tragic loss of beautiful Reagan and Braxton. I want to put a trigger warning because we will be discussing sensitive topics related to miscarriages, pregnancies, and other details that could be upsetting. I think it's very important to spread awareness on fetal abduction. It's scary to think about, but it's real, and people need to be aware of this issue. That being said, thank you Familia for being here and for being so supportive. If you haven't signed up for the Familia newsletter yet, make sure to do so by clicking the link in the description box down below. Now, real quick before we get into the video, I do just want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor who helps support the channel. Thank you to Warby Parker for sponsoring today's video. Warby Parker was founded with the mission to inspire and impact the world with vision, purpose, and style. They are a one-stop shop for so many things such as prescription glasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses. They also offer scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, as well as UV protection. The cool thing is that you can also get free adjustments for life. As for their contacts, they offer a wide variety of contact lenses from top brands, including the full AccuV range. Listen, I'm a glasses and contacts girly, and I probably will forever be. I usually wear my glasses during the day, and then later in the afternoon, I usually pop my contacts in if I'm going to go film, if I'm going to do my makeup, or go to the gym. I just feel like I function better with contact lenses. Now, I use daily lenses, which if you know, you can run through those very quickly, so I love that Warby Parker has made it so easy for me to restock my contact lenses. So, here's how you do it. Start by searching for the brand you like, then fill in your contact lens prescription information and head to the checkout window. Once you're ready to check out, you can upload an image of your official contact prescription signed by your doctor. Finish the checkout process, and once Warby Parker reviews and approves your order, they'll start working on it and deliver it straight to your door. If you don't have a prescription, no worries. You can actually book an eye exam through Warby Parker. They'll find an eye doctor in your area who can do the exam as soon as possible. If you're looking to renew a prescription and are eligible, you can renew it online through their virtual vision test. So these are the contacts that I use. They're the AccuV Oasis one-day contact lenses. I love dailies. Like, I cannot do the other version. I need to throw these away at the end of the day and start fresh the next day. And honestly, there's no better feeling than when you get a fresh pack of lenses. I seriously get so happy, and I feel like it's Christmas or it's my birthday. I know you guys are gonna love Warby Parker, so make sure to head over to warbyparker.com/JackieFlores to save 20% off your first order of contacts plus free shipping. That's warbyparker.com/JackieFlores. Once Once again, thank you so much to Warby Parker for sponsoring today's video and supporting this channel. And with that, let's jump right in. Now, before talking about the tragic day that Reagan and her baby Braxlyn lost their lives, it's necessary to discuss the life of 27-year-old Taylor and how needing to keep up with her selfish and evil lies drove her to make such a vile decision that fateful day, forever altering so many lives. Taylor Renee Morton was born on December 8th, 1992 to her parents Shauna and Mark in Mount Pleasant, Texas. A few years later, Shauna and Mark had their second child, a boy named Zachary. Shauna said that Taylor was involved in sports growing up, such as basketball, baseball, and competitive cheerleading. She did get good grades, growing up, and she was doing well up until the third grade, which is when she suddenly began to experience some stomach issues that actually lasted the entire school year. Shauna said, quote, "I was digging into what the problem was, and Taylor would just say, 'My stomach hurts, I can't go to school today.'" Now, eventually, the suspicious stomach problems just went away, and Taylor went back to school, and she successfully completed the fourth grade. Fast forward a few years, in 2005, when Taylor was now 12 years old, Shauna and Mark divorced. To minimize any negative impact on Taylor and on her younger brother, Zachary, they decided that the children should stay in the house while they alternated their time there, rather than the other way around. You know what I mean? Usually it's oh, you'll go spend the night this week at your dad's house, and then this week at your mom's house. They decided to not go that route. Instead, they were no, the children will stay here, and we'll take turns coming to the house. That way, their environment stays the same. So it sounded like a good idea, but this got complicated when Mark no longer wanted to leave the house. This led to very frequent arguments between Shauna and Mark, which was often witnessed by Taylor and her brother Zachary. So now, instead of Shauna going to them, Taylor and Zachary would go to Shauna's mom's house. Taylor would actually choose to spend most of her time with her father, or at his mom's house, her grandma Peggy's house, because Taylor and her mom Shauna just really didn't get along. Taylor blamed a lot of issues in her life on her mom, whether those were real issues or completely made up issues. Taylor would just blame her mom. She just had this deep hatred for her. One time, Shauna and Taylor were seen by Shauna's sister, Kate, physically fighting and rolling around on the floor aggressively, which is very intense. I mean, a mother and her daughter physically fighting, that's just really aggressive and it shouldn't happen. One of Taylor's friends testified that Taylor and Shauna just never got along and said, quote, "They just holler at each other and her mother would degrade her. I could not imagine myself and my mother being that aggressive with each other." So yeah, Taylor and her mom's relationship was just not good, which is why she wanted to spend most of the time with her dad. As for her brother Zachary, on the other hand, he opted to spend most of his time with his mother. Zachary said that sometimes when he was with his dad, he'd go with him to houses, which might explain why he wanted to spend most of the time with his mom. So they were all spending a lot of time apart from each other as a family at this point. At one point they were all united and together and happy, and now Zachary was with his mom and Taylor was with her father. A bit later, their dad Mark ended up moving in with his mom Peggy, so Taylor was now spending even more time at her grandma's house. Now, Shauna has come out and said that Peggy was a heavyset lady and that she would kind of use food as comfort, which she believes inadvertently influenced Taylor to kind of adopt a similar coping mechanism, and because of this, Taylor ended up gaining quite a bit of weight. By the time that Taylor was 14 years old, she weighed about 250 pounds. Shauna commented on how Taylor felt about this, and she said that Taylor didn't want to be heavy. She wanted to be skinny like the rest of her friends, but for some reason, she just couldn't lose the weight. This weight gain was very difficult for Taylor. I mean, I can imagine how hard it must be to be that weight at such a young age and how that could affect your confidence. Fast forward to 2 years later, Shauna was still struggling with her relationship with Taylor. According to Shauna, when Taylor was 16 years old, she discovered on Taylor's phone that she was lying about her identity and was interacting with a teenage boy. Taylor had this boy so distressed after he learned that he was being lied to, that he even became suicidal. And Shauna had to call this boy's parents to explain the entire situation to them. Now, these lies and this chaos just didn't only apply to Shauna and Taylor's relationship. Two of Taylor's friends did an interview with John Crimes on his YouTube channel, which I will link down below if you guys want to go check it out. They shared how Taylor was when she was younger and how she would lie about all sorts of things. It's really interesting to hear all the lies that she had. She would tell her friends that she had boyfriends, which of course weren't real, and then she would also ask them to send her photos of their bodies. That way she could pass off those photos as herself and send it to boys pretending that that's how she looked like. It's just insane. There are lies that go as far back as when Taylor was 8 years old, claiming to have in the shower, about having cancer, about needing to use crutches. She would make up lies about other classmates and would bully other girls. When she got older, she would lie about pregnancies and miscarriages. There were just so many lies. Like I said, I will include that interview down below if you guys want to watch it, but just warning you, it is very intense. So like I said, growing up, Taylor would always lie about her pregnancies and miscarriages, but in 2009, when Taylor was 17 years old, she really did become pregnant with her then boyfriend, 19-year-old Donald Whiteside Jr., and she gave birth to a baby girl named Emerson. Because of this, Taylor actually did not end up finishing high school, and she ended up moving in with her boyfriend Donald, which didn't last long. According to Donald's sister, Jennifer, Donald cheated on Taylor. With this news, Taylor packed up all of her things and she moved out of the trailer that they lived in, and the two of them didn't really have much communication after that. Since things ended so badly between them, Donald was really not present in his daughter's life. Shauna said that she only met him once before Taylor gave birth to her daughter, so no one in the family had really any type of relationship or contact with Donald. It was kind of like he had just disappeared from their lives, which of course is really sad for their daughter Emerson. Like, that must have been really difficult for her to grow up not really having a connection or a relationship with her dad. In 2010, Taylor began abusing the welfare system for groceries and other items, and this lasted up until she was caught and arrested. According to court documents, Taylor, quote, misrepresented certain facts and failed to report certain facts that resulted in the defendant receiving benefits and or welfare greater than that to which the defendant was lawfully entitled. So she was caught for doing that. She was arrested, but I wasn't really able to find any follow-up details as to like how long she went to jail for or what really happened with that. The next year, in March of 2011, Taylor met a man named Alex Tommen Wacasey who went by Tommy. In September of that same year, they got married, and the two of them had a son together in 2013 whom they named Alex Thomas Wacasey III, or as they called him, Trey. I know Taylor moves quickly. Like, she just met this guy, now she's married to him, and now she has a son with him. Like, that's just very fast. So now she had this new family with Tommy, and it honestly seems like Tommy was a good person. The fact that he took Emerson in and like treated her as if she was his own daughter and just made sure that she had a good relationship with her new brother. Like, it seems like Tommy was actually a good person and was trying to make this new like family dynamic work out. Now, when Taylor first met Tommy, she told him and his family that she was the Morton Salt Company heiress and that she was extremely wealthy, which is ironic since at that same time Taylor was literally abusing the welfare system like I mentioned earlier. So how are you a wealthy heiress yet you're part of a scam? Anyways, she told Tommy's family that she was so wealthy, yet to her own family, specifically to her grandmother Peggy, which I mentioned earlier, she would tell her grandma and her family that she could not afford groceries. It got to the point where Peggy was so worried about Taylor and the kids not having enough to eat that she made Taylor's stepmom, Charlotte, drive her over to her house to see if Taylor and the children had food. When Peggy arrived to her house and went into Taylor's kitchen, there was food in the cabinets and there was plenty of food in the fridge, so Peggy was very confused. She was thinking to herself, why is Taylor calling me saying she has no food and she has no money, yet her fridge is completely full? Well, it's because Taylor just loved having sympathy and she just loved to lie to lie. There was like no reasoning behind her lies besides wanting attention and wanting people to feel bad for her and again just wanting to lie. So she was telling her family that she was poor and didn't really have money, yet she was telling Tommy's family that she was super rich, that her family's wealth was because her uncle owned Frost Chiropractic Clinic in Atlanta, Georgia. Again, just very random lies. During this time, Taylor began working at the Titus Regional Medical Center from around July 2012 until February 2015. And according to her coworkers, she was just not a good employee. Like, she was the worst. She would hear of a medical condition that one of her patients had, and then coincidentally would also become sick with that same condition. At work, Taylor would also eavesdrop on conversations between medical staff, patients, and other employees, and then share that confidential medical information of her patients with other people. She would also create drama with her coworkers by spreading fake gossip and just like other stupid things. Her coworkers said that she would just kind of lollygag and do anything other than her actual duties. She was lazy and it was definitely not a good look, and it caused issues for her and her coworkers. Like, people didn't want to work with with Taylor. Like if they saw her on the schedule, they were like, oh my God, like we're literally going to have the worst day because she's just going to be gossiping. She's going to be lying. She's going to be lollygagging and just be lazy. Now, it wasn't just at her job that she had a bad reputation of not working. She also had that same bad rep with her own husband, Tommy. Taylor would ask Tommy for money for all sorts of different trainings or to start up like different businesses that she wanted to try out. So there was a couple of things that she wanted to try, such as pet grooming school and cosmetology school. And Tommy would give her the money to go through with this, but of course, nothing ever came from any of this money that Tommy invested in her because she would never actually follow through with these goals or with these projects. She would kind of just like take the money and go do her own thing, which is such an insane thing to be doing to your husband and to the father of your child. So she was using up Tommy's money while at the same time complaining about having to pay half of the electric bill and $200 for rent. So their financial situation was just not good, and it did cause a big strain on their relationship. In January of 2014, Taylor decided to have her tubes tied as she did not want to have any more children. Tommy and Taylor were happy with the 2 children that they had, and despite their financial struggles, things seemed to be going well. However, Taylor was still struggling with her weight issues. Her doctor actually warned her that her weight was starting to cause health problems and that she needed to lose some weight to get healthier. In August of that same year, Taylor decided to take a trip to Tijuana, Mexico with her Aunt Katie to undergo gastric bypass surgery. Unfortunately, though, after this surgery, things changed. Friends and family of Taylor believe that this is one of the 2 turning points in her life. That after getting this gastric bypass surgery, like something just changed in her mind, in her brain, like something just, it was all off. So her friends and family are like, okay, she definitely changed after the gastric bypass surgery. But the second thing that kind of triggered this change was the fact that Taylor had to have an emergency hysterectomy the following year in August of 2015. That month, Taylor was experiencing pelvic pain and bleeding, and during a surgery to find out what was causing these pains, the surgeon determined that she had endometriosis and that she had actually suffered an ectopic pregnancy, which is when a fertilized egg grows outside the uterus, and it can be very dangerous. The condition that Taylor's uterus was in called for the surgeon to suggest a full hysterectomy for her own safety, meaning that her entire uterus had to be removed, leaving her unable to have children ever again. Taylor couldn't be woken up from the anesthesia to make this huge decision about her body. So the surgeon went to her mom, Shauna, and to her husband, Tommy, and was like, listen, what do you want to do? Shauna has spoken out about this and said, quote, she gave us a couple of options, referring to the doctor. At that point, you tell a surgeon to do whatever you would do. Of course, Tommy told her Taylor was going to be upset about a hysterectomy. At that point, that wasn't my concern. My concern was for the physician to do whatever she thought was necessary. And that's what I told her to do. Whatever she would do with a family member, end quote. So she was basically telling the surgeon, like, listen, if this was your own daughter, like, what would you do in this situation? And with that, they decided to go through with the full hysterectomy. And when Taylor woke up from surgery and was informed about what had happened, she was just extremely angry at her mom for making that decision. However, instead of taking it out on her, Shauna says that Taylor took out most of her anger on Tommy. That is a very big thing to happen in your life. Like, it's understandable why Taylor woke up angry. I can imagine anybody who would wake up from surgery and hear the news that they had to have a emergency hysterectomy, they would be upset, they would be heartbroken and just have a lot of feelings. So it's understandable why Taylor was upset, but she was just taking it out on the wrong person, and they honestly felt like that was the only way to save her life. So with her gastric bypass surgery and with her emergency hysterectomy, everyone says that Taylor just changed after that. One of Taylor's aunts named Molly also spoke out and was like, yeah, like she completely changed after the surgery. She just gained a lot of confidence. She felt better about herself. She felt prettier and just like didn't really know how to act with her new look, and that was causing problems at home. And then the hysterectomy had to happen, and that just caused even more problems, and there was a lot of blame being thrown around about, you know, whose decision it was or why they decided to do it. So it was just really, really chaotic at this point for Tommy, for Taylor, and for her whole family. Like I mentioned, Taylor was blaming Tommy for her hysterectomy when Shauna said that she was the one who ultimately gave the surgeon the green light. After this all happened, Taylor began telling people that she had uterine cancer despite no malignant pregnancy detected in the tissue samples of her uterus that were tested. Taylor also no longer worked at her old job since February earlier that year. She ended up getting a new job at the Northeast Texas Women's Center in Mount Pleasant, Texas as a front desk receptionist from around September of that year until around February of 2017. According to her coworkers, Taylor would tell everyone that she was a nurse when she really wasn't, and just like in her old job, she became known for all of her bogus lies. Basically, everyone would just kind of like roll their eyes and go like, yeah, sure, to everything that Taylor would say because they could just see her patterns and they just knew that everything that pretty much came out of her mouth was a lie. Taylor would tell them that she was qualified to do C-sections, which is literally insane. Like, she was not qualified to do that. And she would also tell lies about her family's wealth, like she was telling Tommy. And then she would lie about her medical conditions and honestly just about everything. She also wasn't a good coworker. She always missed her shifts. She just didn't do her tasks. I mean, nothing really changed in terms of that from her last job to this new job. She was still a terrible employee and she would still continuously lie. Fast forward to November of 2015, Taylor began experiencing stroke-like symptoms. She felt a really bad headache, she felt tingling, and she also appeared to have a droopy eye. Her symptoms got so bad that she actually went to the emergency room, and there she began reporting weakness on the right side of her body. She ended up spending 2 weeks at the hospital, but doctors found no signs of a stroke and they only diagnosed her with migraines. However, Shauna says that she really thought Taylor was having a stroke because she saw her with her droopy face, she saw her having her vision problems, and she also saw Taylor struggling to walk. So she was like, this isn't one of Taylor's lies that she has where she says she has cancer or, things like that. Like, I actually saw these like symptoms on her face. Shauna said that the doctors at the hospital, again, were trying to figure out what was causing all of these symptoms and what was causing her to act this way, but they had no idea what was happening, so they actually referred Taylor to a neurologist. So Taylor went to go see this neurologist named Dr. Khan, who then referred her to a neurologist in Dallas, Texas, after concern regarding a spot appearing on her scans that could possibly indicate a future development of multiple sclerosis. Now, he didn't think that this was the case, but of course he just wanted to make sure and do some further testing. Johns Hopkins Medicine describes MS as a, quote, long-lasting disease of the central nervous system, a condition in which the body attacks itself by mistake. MS is an unpredictable disease that affects some people differently. Some people with MS may have only mild symptoms, others may lose their ability to see clearly, write, speak, or walk when communication between the brain and other parts of the body becomes disrupted. So while waiting for this new appointment, Taylor was under the impression that it was already confirmed that she did have MS. Again, the doctor was like, I don't know if you have this, but I just want to do more tests just to make sure. So it's not like the doctor told her, yeah, you 100% have it, I just want to fact check. Like, he literally said, I don't think you do. But Taylor was literally telling people that she had MS when, again, it wasn't even confirmed yet. Again, Taylor is someone that likes attention, she likes sympathy, she likes people just feeling sorry for her and thinking of her, so that's why she was telling everyone that she had MS. In May of 2016, a friend introduced Taylor to a friend of hers named Caitlin Glass, who also had MS. That way the two of them could be friends with each other and support each other through this diagnosis. Taylor and Caitlin became friends and they formed their own little support group with another friend also diagnosed with MS. Now, again, Taylor still has not been officially diagnosed with MS, but she went as far as to getting matching tattoos with Caitlin and this other friend to symbolize their new beginnings. Later, Taylor was clearly told that she did not have MS. Like, the doctor came back and was like, listen, like, everything's clean, you don't have MS, you're good to go. But at this point, Taylor had already told everyone about this. At this point, she was already believing it in her own head, so she continued to pretend that she did have MS. Now, the doctor did confirm that she did have chronic migraines, as previously thought, but that was it. Now, Taylor's husband, Tommy, later testified how Taylor faked a lot of her symptoms. She would struggle to walk, but when she thought no one was watching, she would walk normally. Taylor's stepmother, Charlotte, also later testified seeing Taylor exaggerate or just even like flat out lie about her symptoms. She apparently said that she would pretend to have trouble speaking only in front of other people. Taylor's co-workers also noticed that she would drag her leg 1 second appearing to struggle to walk, but then the next second she would walk completely completely fine. She would also lie to her work about her symptoms, saying, oh, today my speech is slurring, or no, like my legs hurt, like I can't really walk today. And she would miss a lot of shifts and kind of call out using MS as an excuse. That's just a really horrible thing, to pretend that you have MS when you don't, and just like pretend to make these symptoms like struggling to walk and struggling to speak. I just feel like that's really disrespectful to the people that actually do have MS and are actually dealing with these symptoms and with these effects, and trying to go on about their lives despite this diagnosis. I just feel like it's really disrespectful that Taylor was just kind of using this as a way to gain sympathy from people and to get attention. Now, going back to the new friend, Caitlin, her and Taylor became very close to each other. Taylor actually confided in her about the emergency hysterectomy that she had, and Caitlin would comfort her about it, and the two of them would share their MS experiences with one another and just comfort each other. Caitlin truly believed that her and Taylor shared the same disease, but soon started to become skeptical after noticing a pattern in Taylor's behavior. Every time Caitlin would go to the emergency room, Taylor would also have to go to the emergency room just days later. Or when Caitlin had to be admitted to the hospital, she would have to stay multiple days for treatment, but Taylor would just be sent home with painkillers very quickly. So she started to notice, like, okay, what are the odds that like anytime I go to the hospital, Taylor also has to go to the hospital, or if I have this symptom, Taylor also has this symptom. She just felt like Taylor was kind of mimicking what was happening to her. Now, Caitlin wasn't the only one who was starting to get skeptical. The medical staff even noted Taylor's exaggeration and inconsistencies in the symptoms that she was reporting. For example, when Taylor wasn't being directly examined, she would show normal control of her right side of her body, which is something that she said she struggled with. She would get up from the toilet normally as well, and would get into bed easily and sit down in chairs with no struggle, but as soon as a staff would come examine her and ask her to demonstrate her symptoms, she would all of a sudden be struggling. There are a lot of medical details and examples that if I were to go over, like, this video would just be a million times longer, but again, I will put the court documents explaining other examples of how she lied about this disease in the description box down below if you guys want to like dive deeper into this. During the trial, Caitlin spoke out and said, quote, all the times I was in the hospital, I look back on our experiences and it made no sense she was there for what she was saying she was there for. It was a good little attention getter for her, in my opinion. End quote. While Caitlin had symptoms such as tingling, numbness, and trouble walking, which correlate with MS, Taylor only had migraines. To treat these migraines, Taylor would use StaIking, which is a nasal spray, which is an opioid painkiller similar to morphine. Taylor was actually going through a lot of these nasal sprays, which also made Caitlin raise an eyebrow since she didn't even take that many painkillers herself, but she believed that Taylor was struggling with her MS because, like, who would lie about something like this? Like, she was literally like, no, there's no way Taylor would lie about this and be my friend and get tattoos with me and be a part of the support group if she actually didn't have MS. And I feel like it's really understandable for Caitlin to kind of doubt that Taylor would lie about this, because any normal person would think that there's no way someone could create this big of a lie and even go to the hospital for it and like fake symptoms and things like that. So Caitlin kind of calmed herself down, even though she still had a little bit of her suspicions. She was like, you know what, I'm just going to put my suspicions to the side and I'm going to continue to be friends with Taylor. During this time, Taylor would go to social media to share her struggles with MS while going into great detail. One example of something she posted was a photo on her Facebook with a lengthy caption about what she was going through. I'll shorten it for the sake of the video, but she basically wrote, quote, after this painful, tough, stressful day, I can honestly say that my body has fallen into yet again another relapse. Number 3 to be exact. My right hemiparesis has returned. My stroke-like symptoms are visibly noticeable, but I have not given up. I am constantly working on moving my hand, arm, leg, and foot and can still somewhat cause movement in some way, which is a blessing because it means that the MS has not taken complete control of my brain's nerve system just yet. Thank you all for the calls, texts, and comments. Love you all. But this is just another example of her continuous mention on social media and in person about a condition that she did not have. This is just so crazy. Like, going on Facebook and posting about this and thanking people for their well wishes is just insane. In 2017, after one of Taylor's many visits to the doctor, it was determined by her doctor, Dr. Mohammed Munir, that there was, quote, no radiological evidence of structural pathology in the brain or in the cervical spinal cord to correlate with her deficits. She is also dependent on opiates for pain control. She has been convinced that she has MS. The data used to make this diagnosis is not available at this time. There is no evidence to support the diagnosis of MS and no structural explanation for the right-sided paralysis and sensory loss. So this new doctor was literally like, there's no way that this person has MS. Regardless of this, for years, Taylor continued posting on social media sharing her medical struggles. Taylor would also use MS as an excuse to avoid doing duties at home, and she basically left Tommy to do everything on his own. You know, he was working, he was cooking, he was cleaning, he was keeping up with the house, he was watching the children, and Taylor just wouldn't do any of that. Tommy also said that Taylor was very dependent on drugs during this point and would get really mad if she wasn't given the medication she was demanding during hospital visits. Tommy even saw her try to punch a nurse once and saw her yell multiple times because people wouldn't give her the drugs that she wanted. So Taylor was still going on about having MS, and she was still in the MS support group with Caitlin and with her other friend. Her and Caitlin's friendship started to expand even more, and they started to hang out outside of the support group. On one occasion, Taylor went with Caitlin to one of her Jeep Club outings. This Jeep Club was called Pirates Off-Road Nation, and they would all kind of like meet up together to go on drives and just like have events and things like that. So Caitlin invited Taylor to one of these events, and after just one event, Taylor was like, I want to join this group as well. Like anything that Caitlin had, Taylor wanted too. Taylor actually convinced her husband Tommy that they should get a Jeep together, and Tommy later said that this was a big decision at the time since they weren't really financially stable and they really couldn't afford the Jeep. Regardless of that, he did it because he wanted Taylor to be happy, even though Tommy wouldn't even be able to enjoy the Jeep because Taylor would often attend these meetings by herself. She was like, no, like this is my thing, like the Jeep is mine, this Jeep group is mine, like she would leave Tommy behind. Now, Caitlin said that Taylor's behavior was very different during the outings and that she acted as if her marriage was falling apart. She was flirting with other men there, including with Caitlin's own husband. Yeah, like this girl is just something else. I guess I'm not really sure if Tommy heard about this flirting or what, but at one point Tommy and Taylor were talking about this, and Taylor was like, no, I'm not flirting with Caitlin's husband. Caitlin's husband is the one flirting with me. And like I mentioned earlier, Taylor underwent gastric bypass surgery, so she had this new profound sense of confidence. And back in 2016, Taylor actually had another surgery. She underwent a tummy tuck, and afterwards people close to her realized that she was becoming even more superficial with this new appearance. It's normal to feel more confident after changing your appearance for the better and for your health, but she started to become more cocky in like a more negative way. She gained so much confidence that she eventually crossed the line in her marriage by cheating on Tommy at one of these outings with the men that were there. A man's wife actually caught him with Taylor once, but this didn't make Taylor reconsider her actions. She continued cheating on Tommy with no remorse, while Tommy would be at home taking care of the kids, taking care of the home, and just not even realizing what his wife was doing behind his back. On one occasion, she actually spent the night with a man during a camping weekend at the Jeep Club. She would be gone almost every weekend at these outings. Tommy started to get suspicious, and one time he actually followed her to one of these events and caught her cheating on him with another man. He also saw that she was sending photos of herself naked that were very heavily altered to make her look different than what she actually looked like in real life. Another time, Taylor left her home to stay with another man for a weekend after her and Tommy got into a huge fight. She had also exaggerated other men's interest in her to make Tommy jealous. It's also really infuriating because during the week, Taylor would say that she had all of these symptoms, so she wouldn't be able to cook or clean or spend time with her kids or with Tommy. But then when the weekend would come, she'd be like, wait, I'm all better now. I can go on these Jeep outings, and she would leave all weekend long, even though during the week she was pretending she was so sick. Oh, I think my light just died. Anyway, so Tommy started to catch on, and he was just like, this is insane. She's not paying attention to me. She's not paying attention to the family, to the kids, nothing. And then she's going out all weekend to cheat on me. Caitlin saw this behavior from Taylor because, of course, she was also going to the Jeep outings with Taylor, and she just did not like how Taylor was behaving. I mean, Taylor was literally flirting with Caitlin's own husband. So, of course, she was not happy with this friendship anymore, and she just felt like this wasn't right. But when she tried speaking to Taylor about it, Taylor said that she was only doing it because Tommy was abusive towards her. So, Caitlin initially justified the flirting and the cheating because she was under the impression that Tommy was actually abusive. Now, while Caitlin believed Taylor, this was a lie. There was no problems at home. There was no abuse. This was just another one of Taylor's horrible lies. Caitlin at first did believe it, but later on she just couldn't really ignore her gut feeling that told told her that Taylor was lying about this. It went as far as Taylor purposely making bruises on herself to prove that this was true. After Caitlyn suspected that none of this was true, their friendship just kind of like fizzled away. It wasn't until after her friendship with Taylor ended that she learned of other lies that Taylor was going around saying. One of them was regarding Taylor and Caitlyn's matching tattoos. Like I mentioned, they did have matching tattoos, one being the Celtic symbol for new beginnings and the other which was a feather on their collarbones. Caitlyn later found out that Taylor was telling people that they got it because they each were in terrible car wrecks before. Taylor claimed when she was 18 years old that her friend who had a bit too much to drink drove her home and took a curve too hard, which resulted in Taylor ejecting through the windshield and that she was lying halfway out of the car. Then she ended that story by saying that her friend was killed in the crash. But Taylor's family has come out and said that that never happened and that friend was a completely just made up character. As I mentioned earlier, Taylor did anything that Caitlyn had or did. So in reality, Caitlyn was the one who had been in a car accident and suffered muscle damage to her arm after. Taylor was just taking Caitlyn's story and making it her own. You know, she was trying to convince people that something similar happened to her and that that's why they had those matching feather tattoos. Caitlyn said that the real reason they had those tattoos was simply because they liked the design and that was it. There was no like deeper meaning or anything like that. They just simply liked the design. Another example of a lie that Caitlyn found out about later was that Taylor allegedly tried to convince people on social media that she was a nurse. Taylor would pose wearing a stethoscope, giving people the illusion and letting people assume that she was actually a nurse. And you may be able to guess, but Caitlyn was previously a nurse as well. Another really big lie that Caitlyn ended up learning the truth about later was that Taylor's daughter's father wasn't actually dead. Taylor had told her that the dad died in a car accident, but that obviously wasn't the case. He was still alive. There were probably more lies that Taylor told Caitlyn and other people, but overall, that was pretty much the dynamic of their friendship and how it ended eventually. I can't imagine being friends with someone and doing all of this stuff with them and going through MS together and supporting each other and leaning on this person to just later find out that this person lied about everything. That they lied about actually having MS, that they lied about their husband being abusive, that they lied to people about why you had matching tattoos together. It's just a lot, and I do really feel bad for Caitlyn because she did just want to be Taylor's friend and support her and help her get through MS, so it just must have been so terribly difficult to learn that all of this was a lie. Taylor had no problem fabricating to herself and to everyone else that she was cheating on Tommy because he was abusive. Now, once Tommy found out about Taylor cheating on him, he filed for divorce in March of 2018. I mean, at this point, he was just so over all of her lies. Throughout their marriage, Taylor was lying about her wealth, her medical conditions, her work status, her social life, and she was also having affairs. The judge ordered that Tommy would have primary custody of their son, Trey, and for Taylor to pay a minimum of $225 for child support each month. Well, as you can guess, Taylor never paid. She ended up racking around $8,000 in unpaid child support. As for Tommy having primary custody, Trey was allowed visitation with Taylor, but Taylor was just like always making excuses as to why Trey couldn't go spend time with her, or she would just kind of like send Trey off to her mom Shauna to be with him instead, which is really, really sad. The fact that she didn't want to make time or put in the effort to see her child. One time after Taylor did have Trey visiting, she sent him back to Tommy with a staph infection and with the sore that had to be lanced because Taylor failed to change his underwear for 5 whole days. As for her daughter Emerson from her prior high school relationship, Taylor also neglected her. Now, remember, she told Caitlyn that Emerson's father was dead. Well, she also told Emerson that. Yeah, she told her that her biological father was dead and told her that Tommy was basically her father. And again, we know that Emerson's biological father was not dead. Yes, Donald was not in Emerson's life and he wasn't really an active father, but I still feel like it's a terrible thing to tell your daughter that their father is dead when that's not actually true. So Tommy was basically the only father figure in Emerson's life, but Taylor would actually keep her away from Tommy and his family if they did something that she didn't like. Like if they said a certain certain comment or did something that she didn't approve of. I can imagine it was very confusing for Emerson since Tommy practically did raise her since she was a baby. And one second she was with Tommy having a good time, and then the next second she was taken away from him. So I can just imagine that it was just a very confusing and sad time for her. Tommy's family truly saw Emerson as Tommy's own daughter, and they welcomed her and they wanted her to be a part of their family. They lived in constant fear that Taylor would just never let them see Emerson again if they said something or did something that rubbed her the wrong way. Taylor knew this. Taylor knew that they really loved her daughter, and she would use this to manipulate them into doing things for her. Tommy actually wanted to adopt Emerson at one point, and his family gave Taylor money for her to pay a lawyer $500 to begin the adoption paperwork, but Taylor kept the money for herself instead, which is just a terrible thing to do. This nice family is trying to adopt your daughter and give her a good home, and you're just gonna steal the money. When Taylor would take care of Emerson, she just wasn't the best. She would leave Emerson home alone for around 7 to 8 hours if she was late for the school bus. So instead of just taking her daughter to school, she would just be well, you missed a school bus, now you're staying home. She also wouldn't get her a babysitter. She did this so often that neighbors began noticing this neglect, and they would offer to take care of her out of pity, and Taylor just didn't care. Taylor would tell Emerson that lying is okay in order to get what you want from other people, and she was just not setting a good example whatsoever for her daughter, and she was just not a good role model. Taylor was just always out with friends or men, and neighbors would see Emerson sitting outside alone for way too long and just doing dangerous things that should be done under adult supervision. So they would see her riding way too fast out on an ATV or feeding hunting dogs all by herself. Emerson was even telling trusted adults that she felt unloved and alone, which just breaks my heart to hear that. I feel so bad for her. It's just so incredibly sad how her mother in a way neglected her. As I mentioned earlier, Taylor would get child support from Emerson's biological father, Donald, but of course she didn't really use any of that child support for Emerson's actual needs. Instead, she used it on unnecessary things for herself. She would also put Emerson in these very dangerous and unsafe situations. So, for example, if Taylor was going to hook up with a man, she would bring Emerson with her, and then Emerson would just sleep on random men's couches while Taylor would be upstairs or in the other bedroom with the men. And Donnie, Tommy's mom, recalls having to search for her and pick her up at all of these men's homes because everyone was just Taylor, this is not okay. It's one thing for you to go hook up with these men and do your thing, but don't bring your daughter to these men's home and just leave her there unattended. It's really infuriating knowing that Taylor exposed Emerson to potential danger, and I mean, who knows what she actually did go through or what she saw at those men's homes. It's just really sad. Thankfully, later, Emerson was pretty much spending all of her time with Tommy, with his family, and with her brother Trey. That honestly just seemed like the better scenario because the way Taylor was treating her daughter and taking care of her was just not okay. Just 11 days after Taylor and Tommy's divorce was finalized, Taylor married another man named Hunter Parker on March 31st, 2018, whom she met the year before while still married. Taylor moved in with him and with his family after the divorce from Tommy, and she did not bring her daughter Emerson with her. His family knew that Taylor had been divorced and that she had children, so eventually Hunter's mom confronted her about the absence of her kids, and only then did Taylor go get her daughter Emerson from Tommy's care. As for Trey, Taylor lied to Hunter and his family that she didn't notice on the divorce papers that Tommy had primary custody. This was just the beginning of Taylor's lies to the Parker family. She would also tell them that she was a nurse, and she even had this tote bag full of medical supplies such as syringes and things like that to sell the lie, which is insane that she was walking around with this bag as if it was part of her costume. Now, if you're wondering if Taylor and Hunter's marriage was better than her and Tommy's, it was not. Taylor lied to Hunter a lot, which is nothing new. She told Hunter that she only had a partial hysterectomy and that there was a chance that she could get pregnant. Then she lied and told Hunter she was pregnant. Hunter told her that they should go to the doctor to confirm this, but she never went, and that entire conversation just just never came up again. They, I guess, just like moved on from her maybe being pregnant. She just had people so manipulated. She never told Hunter the truth, which was that she was no longer able to have children, and he only found out after he later went to a doctor's visit with Taylor for one of her MS flare-ups. He was so angry at her for lying to him, but she managed to kind of like reel him back in, again because of her manipulative skills. She did want to have a baby with him, so she actually made a plan to talk him into hiring a surrogate by telling him that she was going to inherit a lot of money from her grandmother Peggy after her death. And to kind of prove that this was true, she showed him some documents that were, of course, fake. So they were documents basically showing how her grandmother had all this money and was going to leave it to Taylor. With this money, Taylor said that she could get a loan and pay it with her inheritance, which was on the way. Now I'm going to introduce you guys to a man named Tim Hightower, which is a character that Taylor made up. Yeah, like there's no Tim Hightower. He's not someone that Taylor actually knows, but she made him up and said that he worked for Hightower and Associates and that he was the one who oversaw dispersing the money from her grandmother's will to Taylor. So Tim, aka Taylor, because again she was pretending to be him, even sent Hunter a photo of a duffel bag full of money that he was going to give him. But the day that they were all supposed to meet up together to get this duffel bag with money, Tim got into a car wreck where the car flipped and the money went everywhere and then was stolen by the first responders. Again, this is just insane. Like, how she thinks of these lies is crazy, but this was just another elaborate lie by Taylor to get what she wants. Now, when Hunter heard this, he did get suspicious because he was like, that's weird. Like, why would the first responders steal this money? Like, this just doesn't make sense. So he started digging into this Tim person and this photo of the duffel bag. He eventually found that same image of this duffel bag on Google, which I'm sure shocked him. Like, I feel like I would have just been like, oh, okay, this just confirms to me that these people are lying. Like, why is this photo also on Google? I'm not sure if he actually confronted Taylor about this lie or what happened with that, but I feel like finding the duffel bag image on Google should have been the day that he ended things with her. Now, Taylor still wanted a surrogate, and she actually offered two of her friends, Mackenzie and Abby, $100,000 to do it for her. She told them about her hysterectomy, and she begged that she wanted another little girl with Hunter. Taylor would tell them that she would take care of everything that they needed. You know, if they agreed to be her surrogate, she would just take care of everything, of their office appointments, their doctor's visits, everything. But these two friends politely declined. Either way, Taylor wouldn't have been able to pay them if they did say yes, because at this point, Taylor was working at the company Express Employment. However, she wasn't really working much. She was missing a lot of her shifts. She wasn't getting paid well from that job. And then she also had a side hustle photography business called Parker Memory Photography, which she was scheming with as well. Clients would book and pay for their photo shoots to be done. And when they would show up on the day that Taylor was supposed to take the photos, Taylor just like wouldn't show up, and then she would use her fake medical conditions to justify her absence. She would say that she was in chemo and that she was unable to provide a refund. She was manipulating them and just like scamming them, just like she did to everyone else in her life. Now, if she did happen to show up to take the photos when she felt like it, of course, she would either take a very long time to send the photos back to the clients, or she would just never send them the photos and she would just like pocket the money. She'd offer these maternity photo shoot bundles that included a free photo shoot the day of the hospital delivery. People would literally depend on her to capture their precious moments, but they would just be failed by Taylor. It's just all so insane how she got away with this. I'm like, how did no one call the police on her for taking their money? Like, I just don't get it. So yeah, Taylor was struggling financially. So the fact that she was telling her friends like, yeah, be my surrogate, I'll pay you $100K was just insane because she didn't even have that money to pay them in the first place. Since she was struggling so badly, she was able to convince Hunter to take things out on credit under his name. And of course, this just completely ruined his credit. Taylor would also spend a lot of money and then ask for borrowed money from Hunter's family without him even knowing. She'd offer to pay things for other people to like make a good impression and like make them like her when she wasn't even paying her own bills, and she literally had collection agencies trying to reach her. It was all honestly just a hot mess. And quickly going back to Taylor's two friends who declined the surrogacy offer, they actually remained friends after that, and one of her friends named Mackenzie was herself struggling to get pregnant with her own partner, and she later testified that Taylor became like weirdly obsessed with her and with knowing more about her her fertility struggles. She said Taylor became even more obsessed with her after she finally got pregnant and learned that Mackenzie was going to have a little girl. If you remember, Taylor also wanted to have a little girl too. Her other friend, Abby, also eventually became pregnant, and Taylor became obsessed with her as well. But when she learned that she was going to have a baby boy, Taylor basically lost all interest. She even joined this support group called the Texas Gestational Surrogacy Support Group, and she was basically joining that group to ask for help. She would post things such as, "Hello everyone, I am currently looking for a gestational surrogate to care for my husband and I's embryos. We are looking for someone who is willing to give us the gift of life via low cost or free to carry, and we will pay for all the medical treatment, of course. We would love to have our own child since I'm very lucky enough to have one ovary left. I would love advice or to speak with anyone on this matter. Thank you." Taylor was becoming desperate, and at one of Hunter's birthday celebrations, people overheard her say that she was going to get her tubal ligation reversed. But again, that was a giant lie because she had a hysterectomy. Eventually, Taylor and Hunter's relationship just did not work out. They never got their baby, they never really got their happy ending, and they separated in April of 2019. And in the meantime, while their divorce was finalized, Taylor was single and claimed another fake pregnancy in May the following month. At her job, Express Employment, Taylor announced to all of her coworkers that she was pregnant. She told her coworkers that she didn't know who the father was because she just had so many sexual partners, and she could only narrow it down to 3 men. Later, she told everyone that she had a miscarriage, but at the same time would say that it was all just a false alarm. Again, I just don't understand her obsession with lying about being pregnant. I mean, I guess I kind of do in a way because she just liked the attention, but still. Going back to Taylor and Hunter, their divorce was finalized in July of 2019. Taylor, though, did not want the divorce, and she actually tried using Emerson to manipulate Hunter into staying with her. She would remind him of the great relationship that he had with her daughter and how sad Emerson would be without him in their life. Although Hunter loved Emerson like his own, it just wasn't enough to put everything aside and to put all of her lies and just her horrible traits to the side, and he ended up proceeding with the divorce. Now, this decision did not go over well with Taylor. After the divorce, Hunter began dating another woman named Shelby. Of course, this just made Taylor go insane. She would stalk Hunter, tell his friends that he was abusive, and he even tried messaging and calling Shelby to harass her. Eventually, Shelby and Hunter broke things off, and Taylor actually began dating her friend Mackenzie's brother, Bo, but they only lasted a few weeks. Bo had a 9-year-old daughter whom Taylor immediately showed great affection to. She would take her to work, she would take her to go have sweet treats and just do fun things to bond together. Mackenzie saw this behavior and she realized that Taylor was treating Bo's daughter much better than she literally treated her own daughter Emerson. It was very confusing for her friends to see, and it was also just sad to see how Taylor, put more effort into having a relationship with Bo's daughter than with her own daughter. Now, while Taylor was still dating Mackenzie's brother Bo, Mackenzie and her brother actually got into a falling out due to her disapproval of them dating, but he insisted that Taylor was a good person and that she was a good mother figure to his daughter. Mackenzie just knew that Taylor was a liar and that she was just not a good person in general. And at this point, remember, Mackenzie is pregnant. She's one of Taylor's friends that is pregnant. And so she confronted Taylor about her horrible behavior. And Taylor told her that just because she was pregnant, it didn't mean that she could act this way and that she needed to get her hormones in line, which is just a terrible thing to say to someone that is pregnant. Just because someone has feelings or emotions or is trying to tell you something, it doesn't mean it's just because of their hormones or because they're pregnant. Now, Mackenzie even learned later from another friend that Taylor had said something very horrible behind her back. Apparently, Taylor had wished that Mackenzie would have a miscarriage. Mackenzie said that when she learned that, it just shocked her because Taylor knew how much being pregnant meant to Mackenzie. Taylor would go with her to all of her fertility appointments. She was her support person. So just because she confronted her about her and her brother's relationship, now she was wishing that her baby dies. It's a horrible thing. This is someone that's your friend. So just imagine later finding out your friend wished that you had a miscarriage. Eventually, Bo and Taylor broke up, and Taylor and Mackenzie's friendship ended with it as well. That same month, yes, literally just 3 weeks after she finalized her divorce with Hunter and after her little fling with Bo, on or around July 25th, she met 27-year-old Wade Griffin at the Naples Rodeo at Watermelon Festival in Naples, Texas. Now, Wade was a maintenance supervisor for a roofing company, and he also sold wild hogs to a meat processing plant. On the side, he also managed some cattle and did some welding. They began dating, and she eventually moved in with him. But before being official with Wade, Taylor went on one final date with another man named Colton Gage, and she basically used Colton for money. Taylor told Colton that her purse had been stolen and that she had upcoming bills and just didn't know what she was gonna do. Even though Taylor didn't flat out ask for money, she was basically insinuating hey, can you help me out? And Colton gave her $300 via PayPal from the goodness of his heart. Taylor said that PayPal wouldn't give her the money for 5 days, so Colton sent her another $300 via Facebook, and Taylor said that she would send him back the first $300 as soon as it hit her bank account. Well, of course, Taylor never did that, and she actually unfriended him on Facebook. Colton did try reaching out to her again for his $600, but he never got his money back. This just further shows how messed up her behavior is. I mean, taking advantage of the goodness in others is just so horrible. So after this weird little fling with Colton and basically just using him for his money, Taylor decided to get official with Wade, and this is where things just truly get out of control, you guys. I know at this point we have been talking forever, basically, about Taylor's lies and how she grew up and how she just was never really a good person. But now things are just about to get even crazier. While I was reading this and doing the research at this part, I was literally thinking to myself, there is no way that this actually happened. There is no way that people believed what Taylor is about to do. But of course, this is how manipulators are. They're good at this. They're good at being cons, and just get ready. So, initially, Taylor was making a really good impression on Wade and on all of his family. His mother, Connie, says that Taylor even brought a casserole over to their house once and that she was very pleasant to be around. But it didn't take long for Taylor's true colors to show, and while initially her lies were only about finances, her health and properties, they continued to escalate. Taylor told Wade that she was related to the Priffert family, which is an influential family in the area and the owners of Priffert Manufacturing that supplies farm equipment, leaving Wade to believe that she had the same level of wealth as they did. She said that one of the owners, Bill, was her uncle. Now, Bill Priffert is one of the real owners of Priffert Manufacturing, but of course is in no way related to Taylor. She just wanted Wade to believe that she was wealthy, so she actually texted Wade with one of her fake phone and texting apps posing as Bill. Bill texted Wade about designing and selling hog traps and wanted Wade himself to help him with the design and patent it, promising significant profits and even a high reputation in the community. Bill would also send Wade long texts about how great his niece Taylor was, how she was so selfless and had great cooking skills, and Bill urged Wade to basically take care of her. Again, there's no Bill, it's Taylor using a texting app to contact Wade and create this whole narrative. So Wade is looking at these text messages and he's like, oh my god, this is crazy. I'm dating a girl who's very wealthy, her uncle's gonna help me build this business and I'm gonna be rich. So he was feeling really good about becoming involved with Taylor and, making things official. Wade became even more impressed with her when she also told him that she was the heir to a very large oil and gas producing land in Cass County, Texas, that was called the Nolan Place. This is where she claimed that millions of dollars in royalties from this land her family owned were at her disposal soon on a monthly basis. She told Wade that this place was now basically hers and that she had to take care of it. She also asked him if he could help her make some improvements like putting up a pipe fence and other things like that. Like I mentioned, Wade worked in roofing, so he knew how to weld and he also knew how to do stuff like this. So he could definitely help Taylor if he wanted to. So just to recap, she told Wade that she's a part of this rich family, and now she's telling Wade that she also has millions and millions of dollars in this oil and gas company, which again is all just a lie. In order to prove this lie even more, Taylor showed Wade bogus checks that she claimed came from her mom Shauna that she sent her so she could use them to pay for the work. Wade said that this project would be around $50,000 and Taylor agreed and even told Wade that he could hire an assistant and that she would pay him too. She also said she would provide him with all the equipment that he needed and trucks, to which Wade agreed. Wade got to work and he found and hired someone that he knew to help him with this project, and and that was Juan Martinez. Juan even relocated his family from this job, and Taylor was promising him $19 an hour to do this. The first week of doing this project went good, and Taylor did pay Juan his first paycheck. However, weeks passed and Juan was doing the work, but as you probably guessed, Taylor was not paying him. Taylor claimed that she was having issues with her bank and that she was unable to access her money. Of course, there was no money. Everything was a complete lie. Wade had to pay Juan out of pocket, and Taylor was literally Googling how to order fake money. This is when Taylor begins using her mom, Shauna, as a scapegoat for all of her terrible lies. She decided to tell Wade that her mom didn't want Taylor to get this huge inheritance coming her way, so she was going to do whatever possible to prevent it. She went to Wade panicking one day, saying that something terrible had happened and that this was out of her control. She said that her mom took her off the family funding estate because she didn't want Taylor to have the money and because she thought Wade was only with her for the money. Wade said, quote, "The day she told me Shauna had put a stop to the spending and the work wasn't gonna happen, Juan broke down crying. He had 4 kids and couldn't go without a job." That just breaks my heart. The fact that Taylor is such an evil person. I mean, the way she just used people and just didn't care about how this would affect them is horrible. I just feel so bad for Juan. I mean, he did all of this work for his family but received nothing back. Now, to justify her lack of money, Taylor showed Wade a spreadsheet listing withdrawals and payments from her bank account totaling over $1.8 million made by her evil mother Shauna, who was interfering with money that belonged to Taylor to cause problems between her and Wade. Yeah, she made this fake spreadsheet showing that she had over $1.8 million, showed it to Wade, and unfortunately, he believed it. Taylor was literally convincing Wade that her mom wanted to ruin her life and even elaborated this huge lie about Shauna hiring a hitman to kill her. Yes, Taylor said that a person named Jace was arrested for stealing equipment from their land and later confessed to being hired by Shauna herself to kill Taylor. Taylor also said that she was being followed by unmarked law enforcement vehicles for her own protection since this whole thing extended past just a simple hitman. According to Taylor, the Mexican mafia was also out to kill her. It's just honestly too much. She had to continue with these big lies and continue to build on top of it to make it believable, and she just began digging herself into such a giant hole. She went as far as texting Wade, pretending to be her mom Shauna, to keep up the lie. She would send these very threatening text messages, and Wade just had no idea what was going on or why Shauna was texting him so much. So Taylor was like, "Listen, give me your phone. I'm going to have one of my IT friends install a software to prevent my mother from hacking your phone." Why that makes sense, I have no idea. But of course, in reality, it was Taylor who was texting him using her fake, texting apps. So Wade was scared and was like, "Okay, here's my phone, fix it." So Taylor takes his phone, and instead of actually installing that software, she just used his phone to block all of her family members. That way, they really wouldn't be able to contact Wade to basically expose her lies. I'm sure she was scared that one day her family would want to expose her, so she wanted to prevent it by blocking all of them in secret. Now, if anyone in her family would text Wade, it would actually be Taylor pretending to be them. It's just so much. I know, you guys, it's crazy. I don't know how she kept up with all of these lies. I feel like at one point I would have just given up already and just been like, "Listen, let me tell you the truth," because keeping up with all of this is insane. Anyways, going back to her mom hiring a hitman, Taylor began to send screenshots to Wade of her conversations with her law enforcement contact named John Mark Coburn about the updates on this hit her mother sent out for her and things like that. Of course, this was Taylor texting herself, and there was no John Mark Coburn. John told her that Shauna was located and that she would be arrested, and that for her and her daughter's safety, she should move in with Wade because he saw the hitman at the place where Taylor was staying by herself, and the hitman even damaged the front door. So in order to stay safe, she needed to move in with Wade. That way, this hitman couldn't find her. John also sent Wade a photo of the damaged door, and Taylor replied, "What the fuck, they came to my home," which is just so insane that she was just talking to herself. I can't get over it. So because of this, Taylor and Emerson actually moved in with Wade. Taylor got what she wanted with this horrible, horrible lie. John also told them that they were going to have 24 24-hour surveillance near their home just to make sure that Shauna, the hitman, or any other enemy wouldn't get to them. So they all move in together, and Taylor begins getting these very threatening messages from another character that she made up named Mandy Boyd. Later, John tells Taylor that they finally arrested her mom, Shauna, but that it was kind of a difficult journey. He said that when they got there to arrest Shauna, that this huge gunfight ensued between them, that it was just pure chaos, it was all very crazy, but that they eventually were able to arrest Shauna, put her in jail, and then there, behind bars, she took her own life. Taylor was like, oh my gosh, we're safe now, Wade. It's all over. They could all finally live in peace now, knowing that Shauna was dead and that everything was okay. She told Wade that her mother Shauna hated her and that she never wanted her in the first place, and that she was so glad everything was different now. She didn't want Wade to leave her after all this mess, so she made herself into the perfect housewife. Wade said that Taylor would have dinner ready for him right when he got home from work, that she helped him take care of the cattle, helped a lot with the hog business, and helped him with his finances, which again is so ironic since Taylor's finances needed help themselves. Like, she was a hot mess, but Wade didn't know that. Okay, sorry, I had to change my light. I've been filming for like hours now, so like all my lights are dying, my camera battery is dying, like everything is just dying. So sorry if throughout this video everything just kind of changes. I'm working with, what I got. Anyways, going back to this, a lot of people have judged Wade for believing the whole Shauna hitman situation. Everyone's just like, how did he believe this? Like, how did he believe that her own mother was actually hiring a hitman and was actually arrested in this huge gunfight and then took her own life in jail? Like, how did he believe this? But I just want to emphasize that Taylor has manipulated so many people throughout her life. So just think about how many people have fallen for this. Like, that's just how convincing Taylor truly is. She can make any lie sound like the most truthful thing. So going back to Taylor and Wade, he thought Taylor was going to come into all of this money that she claimed was hers, because remember, she said that she was waiting for this inheritance to come in of over $1.8 million, and that's why Shauna was trying to kill her in the first place, because she wanted the money herself. Well, now that Shauna was out of the picture, Wade was like, perfect, we're gonna get the money. He didn't really question her on her finances since they were barely dating and it was all still so new. So again, he basically just believed everything that she was telling him. Wade said that she did always have an excuse for any question that he had. So if he was like, oh, when are you gonna get the money? Or like, why haven't you got the money yet? Like, Taylor always had an explanation. In August of 2019, Wade came home one day and saw that there was baby clothes on the kitchen counter. Turns out Taylor was pregnant with twins. Of course, this was a lie. A girl at Taylor's job, Express Employment, announced that she was going to have a baby, and this is when Taylor made the claim that she was also pregnant, because again, she can never just let someone else have the attention or just let someone else have their moment. She always has to have what other people have, and one thing that she's always wanted was to have a baby, but again, she literally cannot have a child. So she actually left a pregnancy test in the bathroom for all the women at her work to clearly see, and would be so happy whenever someone asked her about it, telling everyone that she was indeed pregnant. She later even showed sonograms of the twins that belonged to other women, but she passed these sonograms off as her own. She was saying that she was a medical miracle and even was getting calls from medical staff asking if they could submit her case for scientific study, since again, she previously told people at work that she had uterine cancer and that she couldn't have babies. So everyone at work was like, well, how did this happen? And she was like, I don't know, I'm a medical miracle. I imagine that Taylor began to feel pressure to keep with the lie, but realized that there was just no way to continue with it. So Taylor got herself out of this lie by impersonating her father with a voice-altering app and telling Wade over the phone that a terrible accident had occurred, resulting in Taylor losing the twins. Her father, again this was her, told Wade that he and a friend were towing away damaged farming equipment when Taylor tried helping them and the towing cable snapped and hit her in the stomach, which then resulted in her losing her pregnancy. All of this was obviously a big lie, but Wade didn't know that. He didn't even know that Taylor had a hysterectomy and that she couldn't get pregnant, so he truly believed this. But what's crazy is that Taylor didn't tell this same lie to other people. It's not like she ran with the same story and was like, okay, I'm going to tell people that a cable hit me and that's how I lost my babies. No, to one of Wade's friends, Stephanie, whose husband Cody used to work with Wade, she said that she actually aborted the twins because Wade wasn't ready to have kids, and because his house was way too small to have children, and she begged Stephanie to keep that a secret. Why she would tell Stephanie that, I really have no idea. Why she wouldn't just stick with the same story. It just doesn't make sense. So weeks would go by and Taylor began noticing a change in Wade's behavior. He was growing distant, uninterested, and just was unhappy overall. He was full of like unfulfilled promises from Taylor. He believed that she was wealthy and coming into all of this money. He also believed that she had a miscarriage. He was also nervous thinking about the whole Shauna situation, how any hitman or the Mexican mafia could come and hurt him at any second. So I think at this point, Wade was just like feeling over the relationship. He was just like, I mean, what's the point when this girl comes with so much baggage? Wade did tell his mom, Connie, that he did care for Taylor, but that he really wasn't in love with her. Despite feeling this way, Wade didn't end things with Taylor, and his mom, Connie, was getting sad about this. She felt like her son was just like settling and staying with Taylor to kind of like be in his comfort zone because, she started to also kind of see through Taylor's lies. Connie just had a gut feeling that Taylor was not a good person despite the great first impression the whole family had. She began sitting there thinking that there must be another side to Taylor that they hadn't seen yet. A side that would make her lose custody of her son Trey. Like, she still was not over the fact that she only had custody of her daughter. Now, when asked about this, Taylor told Connie that she didn't have custody of Trey because the judge made her sign the custody papers when she was in the hospital and she wasn't in the right state of mind. But Connie just didn't buy that lie. But I mean, what could she really do? Like, Connie had her suspicions, but she told Wade. Wade didn't want to believe it, and he continued to stay with Taylor. So it was just one of those situations where Connie was like, I know you're not a good person, but I can't really prove it. Now, Wade stayed in the relationship, but it just wasn't the best. Wade was working a lot. He was spending so much time at work, and when he would get home to, see Taylor, he would just have to hear Taylor complain about all of her family drama. So at one point, he kind of just started like zoning out and just didn't want to hear the same things over and over again. But, he was still hopeful that all that she said to him about her wealth and her properties were going to be true. He didn't want to believe that someone could lie about something so serious. But in the meantime, he did kind of remain very cold and distant towards Taylor. They were no longer being intimate together, and Taylor noticed this and she started to freak out. She knew she had to do something big enough to make Wade stay with her. Now, Wade had mentioned to her before about a 1,725-acre ranch he worked on called Pecan Point that he really liked was on sale and that even had hunting rights, which could make anyone who bought it very good money. There was a lot of potential in this place. The ranch had pecan tree groves and hog, duck, deer, turkey, geese, and dove hunting as well. This is when Taylor was like, oh my God, like Pecan Point, that's what I'm going to use to make Wade stay with me. So she decided to tell Wade that she was going to be buying this property for him as a gift. Now, she had no money to do this, but she figured she would manipulate her way into getting this property. Around December, Taylor began her research into the property. She came into contact with a real estate agent named Rusty Lowe. Taylor was offering $3.5 million for the property that was listed at $4.7 million and was going to give $200,000 of earnest money as a good faith payment to show that she was truly serious about purchasing the property. She said that she was going to pay a full cash payment, and she told Rusty that she was the heir to the Blackburn syrup fortune and that she had the money for this. Now, Blackburn syrup is an old family-owned syrup and jelly producer that supplies to Denny's and Waffle House. So yeah, not only is Taylor related to the salt company, now she's related to the syrup company, then to the gas and oil company. I mean, it's crazy how many connections Taylor has to wealthy families. The insane thing also is that she was offering $3.5 million. Like, I don't know how she thought she would be able to manipulate that. Like, it's one thing to scam and get like $1,000 or something like that, but to get over $3 million. I don't know how she thought she was going to pull that off. So she tells Wade about this plan, and Wade is like super excited about this. The two of them go together to look at the property, and Rusty noticed that when they showed up in a vehicle that didn't really quite match the level of wealth that Taylor was claiming to have. Rusty was like, we always give people the benefit of the doubt, but it was just a little bit weird that they showed up in a car that doesn't really match someone that is claiming to be a part of this like rich, like syrup family. So after they went to go visit the property over the next few weeks after Taylor signed the paperwork for Pecan Point. Side note, it was later revealed that Taylor signed the paperwork with Wade's last name hyphenated next to hers, which was really weird to do because they weren't even married or like engaged, so why was she already like taking on his last name? Anyways, Rusty tried to verify the funds that Taylor was claiming. He was like, yes, you're saying that you're part of this like syrup empire and that you have all this money, but I need proof of this. Like, where is this money coming from? So anytime he tried to ask Taylor about this, he was just met with excuses and excuses over and over again. Taylor claimed a $7 million wire transfer from the Blackburn syrup inheritance was on the way, but it never arrived. Then Taylor claimed that the money could now be coming from her oil and gas royalties. Taylor actually created fake correspondences from a woman named Shelley Lynx at Shell Western Global, who was verifying a wire transfer of $370 million that Taylor was claiming to have. Now, Rusty had someone review all of this paperwork, and this person was like, bro, this is fake. Like, this Shelley person is not real. This girl, Taylor, is not, like, none of this is real. First of all, the email that Shelley was emailing them from was from an AOL account, which is the first red flag of the entire thing being a scam, because how does this Shelley person who is in charge of $370 million not have an official email? Secondly, I mean, the Shell representative just happened to be named Shelley. Like, Shelley who works at Shell. It just like, it was all just a little bit too fishy, and Rusty was just feeling weird about this. You know, he tried getting in touch with this Shelley person to verify the funds, but Shelley, aka Taylor, would reply to him saying, quote, banking information is completely confidential. The buyers were not under the assumption a verification letter was required until you requested it in your office. I am sending this verification form since I will be providing funds. Funds and where they come from is not of importance as long as the seller is paid, from my understanding. The clients are not okay with the seller calling their bank and are firm on their decision in that matter. To which Taylor later told Rusty that she was not okay with him like snooping around trying to verify her banking information and her funds. So that whole thing with the oil and gas wire didn't happen either. You know, she didn't get a $370 million wire transfer to her account. At this point, Rusty, the realtor, was like kind of over it at this point. He was like, I mean, this sale is not going to happen. But Taylor would lure him back in by extending her offer, and she was now telling him that she was looking to buy 2 other properties. Now Taylor was looking at a $20 million purchase. Rusty was like, okay, like she wouldn't be offering this if she wasn't like serious. So he was very eager to verify her funds since a huge commission was at stake. Taylor then decided to make up another character, an Uncle Butch Abston, who was her mother's brother and who was also a multimillionaire who would be giving her the funds. But of course, that didn't happen. Basically, Butch Abston was a real person, but he wasn't actually a multimillionaire who was going to give Taylor the money for this. Regardless, Taylor just kept piling on excuses after excuses, and just when Rusty thought he'd finally confirmed the funds, when Taylor wrote 2 checks for $150,000, she ended up doing a stop payment on them at the bank and told Rusty that the bank advised her to wire the funds instead. But again, that did not happen either. Taylor also created yet another fake character, and she put a lot of effort into this one specifically. She made this new character a lawyer named Blake Lawington. Yeah, a lawyer named Blake Lawington. So this Blake person was now sending emails to Rusty discussing the Pecan Point sale and verifying Taylor's funds. Another character was also created named Stacy Barnett. Stacy was a worker at the First National Bank of Hughes Springs who sent Taylor a document verifying that her and Wade had $12 million in their bank account, which Taylor was going to send to Rusty. You guys, I know this all sounds like a movie. Like, hearing it now is just absolutely insane. Again, a lot of people wonder how Rusty believed all of Taylor's lies, how he actually thought that this sale was happening, and how he thought she actually had all of this money and all of these people working for her. I honestly wonder that too, but again, Taylor is just, she's good at this. On December 18th, Taylor sent Wade a fake email from Morris County National Bank that confirmed Taylor paid the earnest money for Pecan Point to keep Wade, I guess, at ease while she dealt with Rusty, the realtor. And at this point, Wade is just like, what is going on? on? Like, why can't you send the realtor the money? Why can't we purchase this property yet? Like, where is all your money? What is going on? So I think Taylor was kind of starting to freak out, like, oh my God, if I don't like fix this now, like Wade is going to leave me. So again, to keep him at ease, she had to make this fake confirmation that she paid the money for Pecan Point. Now, we're going to get back to Pecan Point in a little bit, but with this fake confirmation, Wade was under the impression that everything was good. He believed all of Taylor's money was coming in and that Pecan Point was a green light and that they were going to make a lot of money with their new business they planned to make on the property. After all, he had been seeing all of this official paperwork and emails and things like that, so with the impression that all of this money was coming in, Wade agreed to finance a bunch of things under his name, including a 2020 Nissan Altima for his mom, a custom trailer, a new tractor, a new barn for his father, an ATV, a brand new truck, and cattle. Taylor was promising to pay for all of this, but as usual was running into banking issues. So Taylor created another character named Linda Hall to be the one to communicate the banking issues with Wade on behalf of her family's oil and gas royalties. Linda told them that she had a solution. They would instead send all the gas and oil royalty payments directly to Wade, but Linda said that in order for them to do that, Taylor had to be on his bank account as well. So Wade added Taylor to his bank account with the impression that the money was going to be deposited into his account. But the problem still happened. No money could be wired over, and Wade was now in terrible debt. He had just bought all of this stuff, like a new tractor, a new car for his mom, like thinking that Taylor was going to pay him back and help him get out of this, but no money ever came, and Wade, it was just crazy. He was just in so much debt. Now, while Wade was dealing with this terrible financial situation, Taylor was asking her mom, the real Shauna, for money to pay for bills, to pay for Emerson's clothes, and to pay for gas. Now, the real Shauna, like her actual mom, who is still alive, was completely unaware of her daughter's terrible lies about her and all the schemes that she had going, so she gave Taylor $600 to use for bills and for her daughter. Now, Shauna was also unaware that Taylor had made this whole lie about how she was trying to kill her daughter, how she had been arrested, how she had taken her own life, all of that. So it's really sad that Shauna helped Taylor by giving her this money when she didn't even know about all the terrible stuff that Taylor had said about her. So with the $600, Taylor didn't use it to help Wade pay any of his bills or use it for child support or for Emerson or anything like that. Instead, she decided to fill out a skip payment form to skip a car payment. Then she spent $94 at a boutique called The Cracked Pearl, and then $127 at another boutique called Knuckleheads and Prissy and Tails. It makes me so angry that she lied to everyone all the time and used her family's hard-earned money on boutique clothes and just other nonsense. Like the fact that she was like, no, I need this money to use it on my daughter, but then went to go spend it on herself is just evil. Now, Christmas time came around, and during a party at the Griffin household, Taylor and Wade announced that they were purchasing Pecan Point and that they were going to be changing the name to Pecan Bend LLC. And they even printed out Christmas cards and taped a pecan to it. Everyone was just so happy for them. Like everyone was like, oh my God, like this is such a huge step. This is amazing. I mean, Wade's mother Connie even recorded the announcement because everyone was just so happy for them. Wade was so excited, telling his family that they no longer have to bother finding somewhere to hunt ever again. Everyone hugged them and congratulated them and was just so happy that they bought this property. You guys, just thinking about this makes me want to scream. Like Taylor literally let Wade get up there in front of his family and announce this huge thing when she knew it wasn't true. The fact that they even put Christmas cards with pecans on it to celebrate Pecan Point, it's just crazy. Now, there was also another Christmas party held that December at Taylor's aunt's house, and guess who was there? Taylor's mom, Shauna. So Taylor showed up with Wade, and Wade was like, what the heck? I thought your mom, Shauna, had been arrested and then took her own life in jail. So to cover up this lie, Taylor told Wade that John, again, the law enforcement contact who told her Shauna killed herself in prison, was now saying that he lied about her death because it would be best if Wade didn't know that Shauna was still alive, and it would just be easier for everyone in their lives to think that Shauna had taken her own life. Somehow Wade believed this lie, but I feel like if your mom was trying to hire a hitman against you, why would you be at a Christmas party with her? Why would you let her go to this party? Why would the rest of the family let Shauna be there if she had been arrested and like hired a hitman and all this stuff. So this part's a little bit confusing as to how Wade believed this, but again, I don't want to judge him. So they enter this party and Wade said that Shauna kind of just glared at them and then busted into the room where they were wrapping gifts, ordering them to go out and like socialize with everyone else. Wade said that was the first time that he had ever met Shauna, and it's not like she was like, hey, I'm Shauna, or did any type of introduction. Like he was thinking to himself like, wow, Taylor, she really is exactly what Taylor portrayed her out to be, because she didn't even introduce herself to Wade or anything like that. So after Shauna went in the room and was like, you guys need to stop wrapping gifts and go bond with people, Taylor and Wade left shortly after. Now later, Shauna testified that she was only like glaring at them, not like staring at them or being rude, and that she was mostly glaring at Wade and Taylor because Taylor and Wade were only staying for a bit at this party, and she was annoyed at the fact that they were spending half of the time at the party wrapping gifts instead of socializing with the family. It is just so weird how at this party, like, Wade didn't confront Shauna and was like, stop trying to kill us, stop trying to hire a hitman, like, leave us alone. It's interesting. Now, there are just so many lies and schemes that Taylor did while the whole pecan point sale was still going back and forth. So I won't get into all of that because, again, we will be sitting here for hours, but I do just want to tell you some of the key moments that went on in the months regarding her other schemes. On December 30th, Taylor asked Wade's friend that I mentioned earlier, Stephanie, for a ride to the bank because Taylor would be meeting with her grandmother there, and that is when she would be depositing $200,000 into her account for the cattle that she and Wade were purchasing. So Stephanie's like, yes, I can drive you. They go to the bank, but eventually Taylor comes out of the bank angry and in a panic because the money just didn't go through. She said that her grandmother was still inside the bank dealing with this because they had only kicked Taylor out for, quote, going off on them after they shredded her money because it was old money. Like, what? Like, that lie is just like so unbelievable. She was basically saying like, hey, my grandma's inside and she tried to give me $200,000, but the bank tore the money to shreds in front of me because it's old money. Like, what bank would do that? It's just insane. So that was one crazy lie that she had. And then when January came around and payments for everything that Wade had financed were starting, he didn't have the money for it. You know, he financed the car for his mom, the barn, the tractor, the ATV, all of this stuff, and there was no money to pay the bills for it, and Wade was getting mad. He was growing more and more distant from Taylor and was just getting so sick of her always having an excuse for everything. Taylor would call him out on his lack of interest and texted him once saying, I want you to take into consideration on my part that you haven't touched me, kissed me, or anything in over a month. It's lonely, and that's something I need in our relationship. You used to do it, so I'd like it back. To which Wade literally replied saying, I'll pass. Wade began thinking to himself, like, this is just insane. Like, all of this is a trap, and it's just Taylor's way of basically keeping him with her. He just felt so much weight on his shoulders from all the debt that he got himself into, and he saw no money coming in like he was promised. It honestly just kind of felt like a situation where he was like trapped. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if he left her, then he had to pay all this himself. If he stayed with her, then maybe he would get the money. Taylor was still doing whatever she could to get Wade into thinking that they actually had money. Taylor even sent him a photograph of a fake check that was in her and Wade's name in the amount of over $8 million. Yes, so with this fake over $8 million check, Taylor wanted to do something else for Wade to get him to stay. Taylor and Wade purchased a $63,000 tractor, and Taylor told the salesperson named David Meadows that she was good for the money, you know, that she was going to do a wire transfer to pay for the tractor, and she even used a voice-altering phone app to pretend to be someone from the bank, verifying that her and Wade had $8 million and that she could easily pay for this $63,000 tractor. She used this voice-altering app several times to lie to people, like I've mentioned a million times. She pretended to be her dad on this app, she pretended to be lawyers, like it's crazy. To add to this narrative, Taylor faked wire transfer confirmations that she would send to David Meadows. Of course, since the wires were never made, Wade's tractor was repossessed. Even the brand new Nissan Altima that Taylor and Wade got for his mom, Connie, had to be taken back. Now, when asked about this, like, of course, Connie was like, what the heck is going on? Like, why are they taking back my car? Taylor disguised it as a recall from the dealership. She told Wade to call his mom and have her leave the car in the driveway, and when Connie was told this, she was thinking to herself, like, in my mind, I'm thinking dealerships don't come to your house to pick up a vehicle on a recall. But she listened to her son Wade, and she dropped her car off in the driveway as requested. 2 or 3 weeks passed, and Connie was just getting suspicious that no one had reached out to her regarding regarding the next steps for the car recall, so she decided to call the dealership herself to find out what was going on. This is when she found out that the dealership never got any payment for the car, and that's when Connie's suspicions of something bigger going on behind the scenes with Taylor were confirmed. Because remember, like, Connie always just had that gut feeling that Taylor was a liar, that something just like was off about her, but she didn't have any proof yet. But now she did. I mean, the fact that the dealership is on the phone saying like, hey, we didn't repossess your car because it was recalled, we repossessed it because no one paid it, was proof that Taylor was just a big liar. So things were going downhill fast. Taylor actually asked Tommy if Emerson could go live with him because things were just getting really bad between Wade, and she feared that Wade was going to break up with her, and then she and Emerson were going to be pretty much left with nowhere to go. Taylor just needed more time to get all of these lies together and to also distract his family from the ongoing Pecan Point sale, the finances that were purchased under Wade's name, and the promises of the inheritance that wasn't coming. Because again, remember, at this time she is still telling Wade like, yeah, I'm still negotiating Pecan Point, like, don't worry, like, it's ours, even though that was not going to happen. So in order to distract Wade and to kind of just keep him at bay, she decided to again turn to her evil mom, Shauna. Now, since Shauna didn't actually like take her own life, because again, they saw her at the Christmas party, and then that fake lawyer was like, oh yeah, I just didn't want to tell you guys that Shauna was dead, but like, surprise, she's alive. So Taylor was like, perfect, I'm going to use this to my advantage. And she began using Shauna to torment Wade and Taylor once again. But this lie could only help in the sense of the finances and the properties. Wade and his family were getting sick of the roadblocks and all of the excuses that Taylor gave. So Taylor decided to tell a lie that she knew all too well. A lie that would hopefully bring Wade back close to her. She was going to lie about being pregnant. Near the end of January, Taylor texted Wade's friend, basically her friend at this point as well, Stephanie, that she believed she was pregnant because she was experiencing changes such as cramping, nausea, and sensitivity to smells, and that she was kind of scared to tell Wade. Taylor also went to her friend Angela to tell her that she was pregnant. Now, quick story on who Angela is. Angela was Wade's boss's wife, and they all met at a dinner when Wade and Taylor began dating. Angela says that Taylor was like overly friendly at this dinner. She was kind of making Angela keep her guard up by how like odd Taylor was acting. During this dinner, Taylor also confided a lot in Angela and told her all about her evil mom, her royalties that she had, all the money she had, the property plans, and all of this stuff. But Angela like really didn't buy any of this, and it just sounded really fake. She also thought it was weird, like, we just met each other and you're already telling me about your mom, you're already telling me how rich you are, about these properties that you want to buy. It just isn't something that you really tell someone when you meet them for the first time. She also thought it was weird because Taylor had holes in her shoes and clothes didn't really fit properly. So she was like, how are you like so rich yet you have holes in your clothes? But Taylor kind of just like brushed it off by saying that she didn't really want to flaunt her wealth on her clothes or other material things because her parents just wanted her to be like normal, to be like everyone else. So that's why she had holes in her clothes. After this really awkward dinner, Taylor even made it known to Angela that she texted her 24-hour surveillance team to ask if the coast was clear before going home, since her evil mom Shauna had a hitman and because the Mexican mafia was out to get her. Literally insane. Like, imagine meeting someone for the first time and them telling you like, my mom is evil, she hired a hitman, and the Mexican mafia is coming to get me, so I need to text my surveillance team to see if it's okay for me to leave this dinner and go home. Anyways, that is a backstory on Taylor and Angela's friendship. So when Taylor calls her in present day to tell her that she was pregnant, Taylor told her that she believed it was because her aura had changed colors after seeing herself in the mirror. But just like she told Stephanie, she told Angela that she was scared to tell Wade since he had been acting very distant lately. Angela told her that before she does anything, before she tells Wade about this, she needs to take a pregnancy test just to make sure that she is actually pregnant, because Angela knew about her partial hysterectomy, so she was like, girl, we just gotta confirm this before we go telling people. But Taylor was like, no, I don't want to do a pregnancy test. I instead want you to talk to my body and tell me if I'm pregnant. Now, Angela was a chiropractor and told her clients to listen to their bodies through certain like touches and response exercises, but Taylor interpreted that as if she was able to like tell if someone's pregnant or not, which doesn't make sense. So Taylor showed up at Angela's workplace without even asking and basically demanded Angela to tell her if she was pregnant or not based on the changes in her body. Angela was like, okay, I'll try. But of course, she couldn't tell if Taylor was actually pregnant and told her that the results of her findings were inconclusive. Regardless, Taylor ran with this narrative and was like, OMG, I'm pregnant. Thank you so much for confirming this, and said that this pregnancy was intended by God. But Angela still insisted that she should take a real test before telling Wade because, as far as she knew, there was no proof of her pregnancy yet. And again, Taylor had been telling people that she was scared that Wade would leave her. So Taylor ends up telling Wade that she is pregnant, and it didn't go well. This was literally the last thing that Wade wanted to hear. He had his mind in so many other things and just so many other places because, again, so much was going on in his life. You know, he was thinking about the sale of Pecan Point. He was thinking about all the debt that he dug himself into. And now Taylor is adding to all of this by saying that she was pregnant. Well, Wade was just like, no, like, this is not what I need right now. He was literally thinking, like, how on earth are we going to have a child when we're literally not financially stable whatsoever? Wade said, quote, when she told me, I was kinda in shock, but it came at the same time that I had been telling her we were not financially able to keep everything we had bought. It was ripping my bank account. None of the money was coming through, and she knew I was getting pretty depressed over it. But Taylor was excited, and she even made a joke regarding Wade's younger brother, Tanner, who recently found out that he was actually going to be a father, and said that Tanner should put his baby in an incubator so that her and Wade's baby could be born first and be the firstborn grandchild like how it's supposed to be. Which is such a weird thing. Again, it just shows how Taylor just can't handle other people having attention. She always just has to be the center of it. Like, no one else can have something good going on in their life. Like, it just has to be her. Now, of course, Wade was like not happy about this, and Taylor was sad that Wade didn't give her the reaction that she was hoping for, and she still feared that this pregnancy wasn't enough to keep him. So she had to make this lie believable. She showed him a fake positive pregnancy test and even documents from the hospital to convince him that she actually was pregnant. Right off the bat, she also said that since she had a tummy tuck back in 2016, that her baby bump wouldn't be noticeable. So she was like, don't worry, if you're looking for my bump, like, you're not going to be able to see it because I had a tummy tuck. And Wade believed her. Taylor was even telling other people that she was pregnant. She told her son, Trey, that she was pregnant, and he went home and told his dad, Tommy, which again is Taylor's ex-husband. Of course, Tommy knew that this couldn't happen because he was literally at the hospital when Taylor had her hysterectomy, but he doesn't say anything. Like, he doesn't tell Wade about this, but we're going to touch on this a little bit later. On February 3rd, Taylor tells Angela that her first doctor appointment went well and that she was 7 weeks and 2 days pregnant. She sent Angela a sketchy ultrasound picture that didn't really look that convincing. Taylor texted her saying, quote, I put my picture in my wallet and forgot the magnet will mess up on my picture, so I'm going back tomorrow during lunch to get another. I've been thinking of names all day. I like Presley Jules, end quote. Then she went on to say how Wade is finally coming to terms with the pregnancy and is getting past the initial shock. Taylor also texted that same excuse to Stephanie with the photo of the ultrasound because the photo of the ultrasound was just like very blurry, and again, it just didn't look real. So she just like blamed it on putting the photo in her wallet and then the magnet messing up the coloring and things like that. She then went on to tell people that she created a baby registry on Amazon and the due date read for September 2020. She said that she would be getting a 3-day sonogram later as well. Now, Taylor needed to prove that this was real. She knew that this lie was just getting way too big, so she knew that she needed a real ultrasound image. Not one from those fake baby websites and like things like that where you can get fake ultrasounds and fake pregnancy tests and things like that. She needed a real ultrasound. So what does she do? She decides to go to her old job at the women's clinic and speak with one of her old coworkers named Susie. She tells Susie that she needs a copy of the ultrasound that was taken when she was pregnant with her daughter Emerson because Emerson needed it for a school project. But the clinic no longer had that ultrasound in their filing system, so Taylor then tells Susie that she went to another clinic where they actually found a mass with a heartbeat and that her doctor wanted to do a biopsy. Like, what? Again, she's just like saying stuff to say stuff. Of course, Susie and her other former co-workers knew that she had a hysterectomy and that her tubes had been tied because Taylor got it done literally at that office. So they were like, what? Like, this doesn't really make sense that you're pregnant, but why don't you come in for an appointment? Like, we'll take a look at what's going on. And they would schedule a couple of appointments, but Taylor would always fail to show up to them. Like, the workers just knew that she couldn't possibly get pregnant. They just assumed that this was just one of the many lies that she would tell and that she she would excuse this by saying that she miscarried or something like that. Of course, the workers just couldn't like straight up confront Taylor about this and expose her due to patient privacy law, so it's not like they could really tell anyone about this. Since no one could really tell Wade that Taylor was lying, Wade was now truly accepting the fact that Taylor was pregnant, but he did still have his suspicions. He actually tried calling Taylor's OBGYN office, but of course with HIPAA, Wade couldn't get any confirmation as to whether or not she was actually pregnant. Wade couldn't even go to her doctor appointments because Taylor got pregnant at peak pandemic, so he had to wait outside while Taylor went in for all her checkups, which of course made it even harder for him to like actually hear the doctor say like, yes, you're pregnant, because he would wait outside in the lobby, Taylor would come out, she'd be like, everything's great, our pregnancy is amazing, and he had really no other choice than to believe her. Now, let's talk about the gender of this baby. Taylor and Stephanie had texted about a gender reveal party, and Taylor determined that Taylor gave Stephanie an envelope with the baby's gender inside for her to organize it, but when Stephanie opened the envelope to see what the gender was, she got suspicious. Like, the document looked fake. There was no letterhead, just a typed title that said Northeast Texas Women's Clinic, followed by a text that said, you have requested to have the specific results of Taylor R. Morton, date of birth 12/8/92, sent via email for gender reveal. It is our greatest pleasure to inform your patient that she is having a girl. The date on this letter was also from 2016, and this was happening in 2020, so Stephanie was like, what the heck, like this letter looks fake and it's not even dated correctly, like something is off. Stephanie confronted Taylor about this, but Taylor justified the wrong date by saying that the clinic told her that they had 324 misprinted gender reports sent out. Still suspicious, Stephanie called the clinic herself to clarify this, and the clinic was like, we don't even like do that here, like we don't do like gender reveals or anything like that, so like that letter isn't real. But again, at this point, Stephanie didn't know that Taylor couldn't have kids at this point, and she didn't know how to confront Taylor about this, so she kind of just tried telling herself like, oh, like I'm just overthinking it, like there's no way Taylor would lie about this, she wouldn't be having a gender reveal party if she wasn't actually pregnant. So the gender reveal was held on March 14th. There's actually my birthday, and I was thinking about this, I was like, oh my god, that's so weird, like while I was celebrating my birthday in 2020, Taylor was having a fake gender reveal party. Now at one point, Taylor's family had to hear about this pregnancy because all of her friends were like hearing about it, she was posting about it on Facebook. So when Shauna heard about Taylor's pregnancy, she was just like, wait, what? Like, how is this even possible? Like, it didn't really make sense because again, she was literally there when she had the hysterectomy. So Shauna was just like very confused by this. Now, Taylor had this gender reveal just a week after Wade's brother's gender reveal party happened because again, if you recall, Taylor announced her pregnancy right after he did. Now, she was having her gender reveal a week later, and again, it just shows how she just wanted the spotlight on her and just saw everything as a competition. She couldn't even give Wade's brother like at least a week to have the attention and have the spotlight on him and his, wife's pregnancy. Like, she had to just immediately take that away from them. Anyways, at this gender reveal party, Taylor and Wade's family joined, and Stephanie was thinking to herself like, okay, like I'm crazy for thinking that Taylor was possibly lying about this. I think I was wrong because there's no way Taylor's friends and family and Wade's friends and family would come if this was all just like a big fat lie. What Stephanie didn't know is that Taylor's family knew that she couldn't get pregnant, and they were at this gender reveal party just thinking like, this is just another one of her big lies, and this is crazy. They also thought, just like the clinic, that Taylor was going to get out of this by claiming that it was a miscarriage and that all of this would be over before they knew it. At the gender reveal, Taylor, her son Trey, and her daughter Emerson led out a heifer around the side of the house to where the guests were standing, and the heifer was wearing a pink bow. It was announced that Taylor was going to be having a baby girl. Now, also at this gender reveal was Susie Martinez, her old coworker from the clinic. She was the only one who went, and her other former coworkers who were invited chose not to attend because they didn't want to be a part of this bigger lie. Now, again, Susie knew that Taylor could not get pregnant, but she really couldn't tell anyone due to HIPAA. That same day, Taylor posted on social media the image of the heifer wearing a pink bow and announced that she was pregnant again with a fake ultrasound photo that had the clinic's logo on it. Taylor got the ultrasound from one of those like fake baby websites that I mentioned earlier, and she altered the image to include her name, the clinic's name, a fake date, and just like other fake details. She also posted on Facebook a caption saying, "We would like to officially announce it's a girl. Thank you so much, Stephanie and Angela, for holding the gender as long as they both did. You went above and beyond, and it was perfect. perfect. Thank you to everyone who came out and helped celebrate our special day. Clancy Griffin, coming September 2020. Now, Wade said that he always liked the name Clancy, so that's why they decided to name their daughter Clancy Gale. So Taylor posts this on Facebook. She posts the ultrasound with the clinic's name on it, and then Melissa Mason, the clinic office manager where Taylor used to work, sees this on Facebook and is like, what the heck? Like, she confronts Taylor about this and tells her that she shouldn't be putting the clinic's name on there because, one, she wasn't even going to her appointments there, two, because the clinic would now be associated with this big lie, and she asked Taylor to remove the ultrasound. Like, you get what I mean? Like, Melissa was like scrolling on Facebook. She sees that her ex-coworker Taylor, who cannot get pregnant, posts an ultrasound saying that she got this ultrasound done at the clinic where like Melissa still works. Obviously, she's gonna be mad. She's gonna be like, girl, you're lying, and now you're saying that you got this ultrasound at my job. Like, that's not true. Taylor responded back to her and said that she was only using that sonogram as a tactic as she was trying to see who keeps causing issues. She said that her evil mom Shauna was contacting her doctors, and that's why she was not putting out the actual sonogram with the real information. She also reminded Melissa about HIPAA and said, quote, I'd like for my stuff to be kept HIPAA from my family because they have no business snooping. After this, Taylor unfriended and or blocked all of her former coworkers and just like certain people on social media because she knew that those people would probably call her out for lying. She literally removed a total of 76 people. After this, Taylor got scared that her lie would be exposed, so she created yet another fake character to smooth things over. This time, it was a person named Lindsay Hall. Lindsay was a friend and a worker at the clinic that Taylor was going for all of her appointments, and she texted Melissa saying, quote, Melissa, this is Lindsay Hall. I posted the picture to Taylor's Instagram trying to see who keeps contacting people about Taylor's business. She didn't know what it was going to say. That is my apologies. Taylor texted me upset about the matter. I removed it. Didn't think it would cause a problem, but I told her someone may ask about it. I work for the doctor's office she is seeing, and we are good friends through Christy at St. Michael's at the Women's Center. She thought I had posted a pic from our office she originally had. Sorry for causing the problem. I couldn't post patient pictures online for HIPAA-related laws. I will fax her medical documentation over Monday morning at 8 a.m. when we open as well, since she stated that she was moving providers. I will correspond with your staff then once everything is sent. Like, this is insane. She created a whole character named Lindsay Hall to text Melissa being like, oh my god, so sorry, like I was the one that made that fake ultrasound, like we're doing it because we're trying to like hide where she's actually going, like I'll send you all the documents later to prove that she's actually pregnant. Like, it's just crazy how far Taylor was going. A few days after the gender reveal on March 18th, Taylor texted Stephanie that she was struggling with contractions. She said, I took the medicine the doctor gave me for this and I'm lying in bed with Trey. If the contractions don't improve within the time frame the doctor mentioned, I'll have to go in. The doctor said that I should notice improvements within an hour to an hour and a half. She thinks I'll have the baby early and I'll likely be on bed rest by the 25-week mark. She said that she was also given medicine known as McKenna. Now, according to the National Library of Medicine, this steroid hormone is given to women who are at risk for preterm birth. And as of 2023, McKenna and all of its generic names have been withdrawn from the U.S. market due to the FDA deeming it ineffective and due to the lack of information about the effects on developing fetuses. So that's just a little bit of background on that, on the medication that Taylor claims was given to her. Taylor went on to explain how the doctor said that she can't be taking this medicine the last 3 months of her pregnancy, otherwise it could interfere with the baby's development. So the only solution would be to stay in bed rest. Stephanie was like really worried about this. She was like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? What can I do to help you? And she was just trying to be a good friend for Taylor. And of course, Taylor's like all happy about this because she's like, yes, like I have sympathy, I have attention, people feel sorry for me, like this is what I wanted. To get more sympathy, she says, quote, the doctor hopes I'll make it to 34 weeks. I'm currently 13 weeks and 4 days. That means I could have her around August 9th through the 13th, but we hope she stays in longer. The doctor just doesn't think it will happen, end quote. Now, when she said this, Stephanie got a little bit suspicious since it was really early for Taylor to be having contractions. And again, she called Taylor's clinic herself to get clarification on this. The clinic said that they would absolutely not give that medication to someone that early in their pregnancies. So Stephanie was like, well, I know someone who is claiming that and their name is Taylor Parker, to which the woman on the phone stayed silent and then asked if she would be okay speaking with the clinic manager, Melissa Mason. Now remember, Melissa is Taylor's old coworker. She's the one that confronted Taylor about the fake ultrasound and said, like, don't be using my clinic to go on with this lie. So Melissa gets on the phone and she starts talking to Stephanie, and Melissa's like, listen, I can't really reveal any information, so all I'm going to tell you is listen to your gut. Now, this is when Stephanie starts to believe that Taylor is lying. Again, it's just crazy that Taylor was just making up this whole scenario of like, my doctor is giving me this medication and my doctor says this and that, when there was no doctor to begin with and no pregnancy to begin with. That same month, Taylor texted Angela saying that she was heavily bleeding and that she was still having contractions and that she feared she was going to preterm extremely early or that she was having a miscarriage. She said that she might even be admitted to the hospital. The following day, she texted Angela again that she did go to the doctor and that she didn't need to be admitted, only had to be in bed rest, and that there was still a heartbeat for her baby. However, the following day, Taylor tells Angela that she took herself to the hospital again because she was bleeding a lot and that Wade couldn't take her since he was at work. Anyways, fast forward and April comes around, and at this point, Taylor just has way too much on her plate. She's balancing this fake pregnancy, she's balancing the ongoing sale of Pecan Point. I mean, it's just too much, and at this point she really can no longer keep up. So she decides to text Rusty, the realtor that we mentioned earlier, that the sale is off because her mom has ruined everything. Now, Rusty was so mad about this because he literally wasted 4 months on this back and forth nonsense. He was hoping to get this huge commission and he just couldn't believe that Taylor just like ended everything. Taylor had to break this news to Wade and he was super upset. I mean, he literally told everyone at the Christmas party like, hey, we bought Pecan Point and we're gonna name it this and we're gonna do this and that. So to now learn that that's not actually happening and that he has to tell everybody like, oh, never mind, it was just very upsetting. He was just feeling so frustrated with Taylor at this point, but Taylor's friend Angela and her husband, who was friends with Wade, were like, listen, I know you're mad at Taylor, but she's very sensitive right now with all the problems she's facing in the pregnancy. Like, you need to be gentle with her. So Wade felt like he couldn't even be angry about it because Taylor was pregnant, and he basically just kind of had to bite his lip about it. Taylor at this time was posting all over her social media about the baby with hashtags like hashtag Clancy Future Pig Catcher and hashtag Daddy's Little Helper. And she was messaging people to make custom onesies or blankets for her baby and asking for maternity photographers and makeup artist recommendations and posting all about the struggles that she was going through for everyone to see on Facebook and to give her sympathy. For Mother's Day, Taylor made a post on Facebook with the heartfelt caption celebrating her children, saying how they made her a mother and how rewarding motherhood is despite its challenges. She vowed to always support and love her children. She promised to be their biggest fan and to help them achieve their dreams. It's so insane that she was like the perfect mom on social media, but in real life, she was so negligent to her 2 children. On July 19th, Taylor posted fake ultrasounds saying how strong her baby girl is doing and how she's been handling everything like a champ. Time was passing fast and Taylor needed to keep the lie going. She needed to somehow start showing a belly. So she decides to go to her handy dandy website that sells fake ultrasounds and other pregnancy related documents, and she purchases a silicone 30-week baby bump. She also purchased another fake sonogram and paid a total of $158.97. In August, Taylor had a fake maternity shoot and she posted these photos all over social media, just so happy about this pregnancy. Taylor was even telling Wade that she could feel the baby kick, and one time Angela and Roger even felt the baby kick too, but Wade never felt the baby kick. Wade testified that he didn't feel the baby move, but that he did hear Taylor vomiting every morning from the supposed morning sickness, and that Taylor and him were not intimate at the time that she was pregnant, so he never actually saw her stomach. That same month, Taylor searched on Google information about adoption and how to locate mothers willing to give up their baby for adoption. She even came across an article about one family who located a baby to adopt through Craigslist. Around this time, Stephanie, her friend, and her husband Cody were not really buying the pregnancy. They were sharing their suspicions with others, and this made Wade mad. He was defending Taylor so much, and Stephanie and Cody were like, listen, like, I don't think Taylor's telling the truth. Like, she's my friend, and I'm telling you, I don't think she's pregnant. But Wade just ignored them, and this really started to strain their friendship. People were suspicious of this pregnancy, and Taylor didn't like it. Tommy's mom also doubted the pregnancy since, again, Taylor had her hysterectomy while she was married with Tommy, but Taylor simply just told her, "It's a miracle, all my stuff grew back." Like, it's just crazy. Now, there were still people who actually believed Taylor was pregnant, and on September 10th, Taylor had a drive-by baby shower, so her friends and family could drive by her house and drop off gifts from the registries that she created at Target and Walmart. Some items were like baby wipes, a car seat, clothing, and gift cards. Now, really quick, going back to the people who were doubting her, it wasn't only Stephanie and Cody that were trying to warn Wade. With the maternity shoots that were all over Facebook and like Taylor's selfies holding her fake belly all over social media, Tommy, her ex-husband, was like, "Okay, this is getting out of hand." On September 11th, Tommy texted Wade trying to warn him of Taylor's lies and said, "It's funny how Taylor is pregnant, but every hospital with a 60-mile radius is watching for her because they're scared she's going to come in and steal a baby because there's no possible way she's pregnant. And they all know that because they all got the hospital records. I'm reaching out to you because I feel like it's the ethical thing to do." In 2015, Taylor had a hysterectomy. She isn't pregnant. She can't get pregnant. She's a con artist and is lying to keep you around. I'm sure you haven't been to one doctor appointment with her for whatever reason. I don't do drama, not at all. But because I know for a fact she isn't pregnant and is running out of time, I had to reach out. Please be careful. She has lied about so much for so long. She has herself so deep she can't get out. I'm concerned how far she might go for this. All hospitals are on high alert because she may go to the extent of stealing a child. The day after Tommy texted Wade that, Taylor emailed herself and Wade pretending to be Shauna, her evil mom, and in the email, Shauna said that she notified all the hospitals in a 60-mile radius and said that Wade would be arrested once Taylor gave birth. Taylor was basically trying to make Tommy's text part of Shauna's evil plan to keep ruining her and Wade's life. Now, her ex-husband Hunter also tried reaching out when he learned that Taylor was faking a pregnancy and attempted to contact Wade's younger brother to warn him, but never got a response back. Now, with all of this, Wade was like getting suspicious, but he kept thinking to himself, like, there's just no way she's lying about this. Like, why would she do this? He had literally seen like medical paperwork and she had gone to all these doctor visits and like had a belly. So how could she be lying about all of this and like keep up with everything? It honestly got to a point where it felt like the only person that believed Taylor was actually pregnant was Wade himself. His own mother, Connie, even confronted him and was like, "Listen, I don't think this is true anymore. I think she's a con artist. I think she's the one that's texting you, pretending to be Shauna, pretending to be these lawyers and doctors. Like, she is the one behind all of these text messages and all of this stalking. Like, she's crazy." But Wade was just like, "Don't talk about her that way. Like, don't say those things. Like, she's actually pregnant." Since Connie was now getting in Wade's ear saying that all of this was a lie, Taylor felt more pressure now than ever to prove everyone wrong. Her due date of September 22nd was getting closer and Taylor was panicking. She had no baby to give birth to, so she started thinking about how she could get her hands on a baby that she can pass off as her own. On September 14th, Taylor Googled how to register an out-of-hospital birth. Then on September 16th, Taylor searched up a program for midwife training. That same day, she saved an Oklahoma birth certificate request form to her phone. At this point, she was thinking, like, if I become a midwife, then I can possibly snatch up a baby and then just take it as my own, as if it would be that easy. She was also watching videos on YouTube posted by a channel called Nucleus Medical Media about vaginal and C-section births and about how to deliver a placenta intact, as well as information about babies being born while still in the amniotic sac. I mean, Taylor's searches were just getting more and more desperate and disturbing. It was like she was looking for any way to get into a woman's clinic or get into the hospital to steal a baby. A few days later, Taylor made an appointment to be seen at an OBGYN in Paris, Texas. When she arrived for this appointment, Taylor filled out like bogus information in the paperwork, like not even like her real name or anything like that. And before she was seen by the medical staff, she broke down and said that she wanted to reschedule because her husband was in the military, but then changed her story right there on the spot, saying that her husband was actually dead and had passed away, and that her own mother canceled on her being there with her. So regardless of this bogus lie, she rescheduled her appointment for the following day, but the doctor still came out and was like, "Listen, like, I'll still give you a sonogram if you want," but Taylor denied it. Now, instead of just like going home and like going about her day, Taylor decided to go outside of the clinic, sit on a bench, and and basically people watch. She sat on this bench for about 2 hours, and it was later revealed that Taylor was discreetly documenting the license plate numbers of expectant mothers entering the clinic. Taylor was spiraling at this point. She was becoming more and more desperate. Crystal Thompson, who was 34 weeks pregnant, went to an appointment at the clinic at 1:20 p.m. and at 1:44 p.m., Taylor looked up her car's license plate number online. This car belonged to the father of Crystal's baby, but Taylor was trying to track these pregnant women down. It's absolutely frightening how far she was willing to go for this lie. Like, she was basically hunting for pregnant women to go steal their baby. Fast forward, and it was now days past Taylor's due date on September 22nd, and she told Wade that she had an appointment to be induced on Wednesday, September 30th, but she could no longer go in because she had a fever and she had to provide a COVID test before going in. But the results of the test wouldn't be available until 2 days later. She just kept buying herself like more days, so she kept lying and was like, no, I can't get induced today because of this, and I can't get induced because of that. Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier, but Taylor was also looking up for pregnant teen support groups in the area. She wanted to convince a desperate teen to basically give her their baby, or even possibly kill this pregnant teen to abduct the baby. It's just insane and just so frightening how much more sinister Taylor was growing each day. Anyway, she bought herself a couple of more days before she had to go get induced, but when that day finally came around, Taylor was like, well, I can't go to the hospital, I literally don't have a baby. So she decided to make a very rash decision to get herself out of her appointment. She decided to set Wade's home on fire. Yes, Taylor woke Wade up in the middle of the night telling him that the house was on fire, and Wade extinguished it. It's just crazy that she lit their house on fire just to keep all of this going. So it turns out that the fire was started by unknown actor or actors who introduced an external heat source such as a cigarette lighter or match to the plastic sheeting underneath the residence. Now, of course, Taylor was the one who did this, but at the time, people didn't know that. So after this fire happened, Taylor was like, okay, what's my next excuse as to why I can't go to the hospital to get induced? So this time she told Wade that she wouldn't be able to go because there had been a bomb threat at the hospital. According to the hospital, a man called at 5:21 a.m. and said, there is a bomb in the hospital, and then just hung up the phone. Police were notified right away, and the police department made everyone evacuate while they checked the hospital for a bomb. They went floor by floor, blocking all the entrance and exits. Ambulances were redirected to other smaller hospitals, and it was just complete chaos. Later, investigator Travis Nichols from the Mount Pleasant Police Department discovered that the phone number used to make the threat came from a text-free and call app linked to the email trparker90@gmail.com, which of course is Taylor's email. So she literally used one of her fake numbers to call the hospital and put in a bomb threat just to keep this lie going. She literally wasted these officers' time. She disrupted the hospital's routine. I mean, what she did was just horrible. Now, despite the bomb threats, despite the house fire, despite all of this, Wade knew that Taylor was way past her due date. Like, he was like, okay, enough is enough. What is going on? How are you not in the hospital? How are you not just like already giving birth right now? Like, I don't understand what's going on. He kept pressing Taylor about the fact that the baby wasn't here yet. And it wasn't just Wade that started to kind of grow frustrated. Like, people were beginning to see through her lies and through all of her schemes. Cornered and desperate, she knew that she needed a plan fast. That's when a sinister idea sparked in her mind. Taylor knew exactly how to get a baby and prove everyone wrong. She remembered a Facebook friend who had posted about her upcoming due date. The due date was pretty soon, and this friend was having a baby girl, just like Taylor. A wicked grin spread across her face as she finally saw the way out of this tangled web of lies. Taylor logged onto Facebook and typed in the search bar, Reagan Hancock. So let's backtrack a bit. Who was Reagan? Reagan Michelle Simmons Hancock was born on November 14th, 1998 in Hope, Arkansas to her parents, Jessica and Brandon. She had a sister named Emily, and sometime throughout their childhood, their parents got a divorce and they ended up remarrying. Jessica married a man named Marcus Brooks, and he had such a good relationship with Reagan, which is just so wonderful to hear. Divorce can be so difficult as a kid, and then to have your parents remarry new people, and then to be introduced to these new people in your life, it can be a lot, but Reagan and her stepdad Marcus just immediately clicked. that. Not only did she get a new stepdad, but she also got some new siblings. She had her sister Emily from her parents' marriage, but now she also had a half-sister named Destiny and two half-brothers named Clayton and Sawyer. When Reagan found out that she was going to be a big sister and was going to be having all of these new siblings, she was just so excited about this, and she shared all of her excitement on Facebook for everyone to see. She loved her siblings and was excited that her family was growing since she was very family oriented. Jessica and Reagan also had a very close mother-daughter bond, and they talked every single day, which is just so beautiful. Now, Reagan's family described her as someone with a big, beautiful laugh. Her laugh was contagious, and she was always just very goofy. Reagan is described as also being very helpful. You know, she was always asking people how they were and if there was anything that she could do for them, whether that was cooking a meal and then sharing it with others or just keeping them company. Jessica said that Reagan had a smile that could light up the room and the right amount of sassiness to go along with it. Like, yeah, she was really nice. She was so friendly, so kind, and so just wonderful, but she also had a sassy side and she definitely had a little bit of attitude. But I mean, everyone just loved that about her. One of Reagan's friends, Abby, said that Reagan was always there for everyone. She said, quote, "It didn't matter if she knew you for a day or if you knew her for an hour, you could count on Reagan for anything. She was always cracking jokes and always had something funny to say. She made events fun even if it wasn't a good time in someone's life." Her sister Emily has also spoken out and says that Reagan absolutely loved sunflowers and that they were literally her favorite flower in the entire world. Reagan also loved using Snapchat filters, so there's a lot of photos online of her with these cute filters from Snapchat, and she was just always very happy sharing moments from her life to her social media account. That was kind of her personal online diary. When Reagan was 17 years old, she left school with terrible pain in her lower back. Thinking it could be kidney stones or something more serious, Reagan went to the emergency room to get checked out. Well, after blood and urine tests, it turns out that Reagan didn't have kidney stones. She was actually pregnant. Now, when she heard the news about this, she was like, this is insane. She was absolutely not expecting to hear those words, and she was really scared. She was screaming and crying, saying that she was too young to be a mom and that she couldn't do that since she felt like a child herself. It was very scary, but thankfully Reagan had an incredible support system from her family, and she realized that she wasn't going to go through this alone and that she was strong enough to do this. As soon as Reagan got her first ultrasound, she says that she felt love that she had never felt before. She was expecting a baby girl that she was going to name Kinley Grace, and she had a very healthy pregnancy, and on March 5th, 2017, Reagan gave birth to baby Kinley. Reagan said that she would do it all over again, and that, yes, she was a young mother, she was 17 years old, and she did have to grow up faster than other girls her age, but she wouldn't trade being Kinley's mom for anything in the entire world. Reagan and Kinley's father, Caleb, were together for some time, but they ended up separating. Unfortunately, Kinley's father, Caleb, actually passed away in 2022. As for Reagan's love life after giving birth to her baby and separating from Caleb, she began dating a man named Homer Hancock, and then the two of them got married in 2019. Their wedding was really beautiful. It was full of sunflowers since, of course, they were her favorite flower. Her cake had sunflowers on it. There were sunflower cupcakes. Her bouquet was sunflowers. Homer was wearing a sunflower on his shirt, and all of the centerpieces were sunflowers as well. There was just so many beautiful flowers everywhere, and all of this beautiful yellow reflecting how happy Reagan, Homer, and all of their loved ones were about the two of them getting married. Reagan's family was so proud to have Homer as their son-in-law. He was amazing, he was hardworking, he was really great with Reagan, and especially with Kinley, who he practically raised as if she was his own daughter. It was a perfect wedding day, and Reagan just looked absolutely beautiful in all of the photos. They were now all one big happy family. At this time, Reagan was working as a receptionist at a realty office and later began working as part of the customer service team at the Flying Burger and Seafood restaurant in Texarkana. She was working hard to give Kinley a great life and just give her everything that she needed. And because she was working so hard, she was able to buy herself her dream car, which was a Dodge. I'm not sure the model name, but she later upgraded the Dodge to a Nissan Rogue, which she was very proud of as well. As for Homer, he was also very hardworking and previously worked as a jail guard, then at a landscaping firm and at a trucking center. So the both of them had a lot of of jobs, and they were just very hardworking people. In early 2020, Reagan announced on Facebook that she and Homer were expecting a baby girl who they decided to name Braxlyn Sage. Reagan was going to give birth around November, and she just couldn't be more excited. She was so happy to have two girls, and she was planning to look for a work from home job after Braxlyn was born. And she wanted to take a few college courses as well, despite it being a little bit more difficult with the new baby, but she was just so excited about this new chapter in her life. Everyone was also so happy for Reagan and Homer. Even someone who wasn't even close to Reagan was happy after seeing the announcement on Facebook. Someone who couldn't have any more babies themselves and would lie about being pregnant. Like you might have guessed, I'm talking about Taylor. But how did Taylor know Reagan was pregnant, and how are the two connected? Well, Taylor and Reagan were actually friends on Facebook since roughly March 2019 because Taylor actually took Reagan and Homer's engagement photos. Now, remember, Taylor always had these businesses that she would start and then abandon, and one of those was her photography business. Again, Taylor sometimes wouldn't even show up to book sessions, or would take a really long time to send the photos back, or wouldn't even send them a refund or send the photos at all to her clients. She was a horrible photographer. I don't know how she was still in business, but somehow Reagan ended up hiring Taylor to take her engagement photos with Homer, and after this session, they actually remained Facebook friends. They would give each other, the occasional like or comment on photos, but their relationship really never became more than that. Just like Facebook friends, that was it. Regardless of them not really being close, Taylor did attend Reagan and Homer's wedding because she was hired to photograph their special day. Reagan even posted a selfie with Taylor on Instagram the day of her wedding, and a few days after, Taylor posted a photo of her and Reagan and wrote, "Fun times at the Hancock wedding." Reagan commented, "So glad you hung out with us." Homer also chimed in and said, "Thank you for taking our pictures." And Taylor replied saying, "Of course, loved everyone I met and I had such an amazing time." So again, they weren't really friends. It seems like this was more of a transactional relationship. Taylor was their photographer. They were friendly with each other, but it's not like they would hang out or go on double dates or go to the movies or anything like that. Now, when Reagan announced that she was expecting a baby girl, Taylor was supposed to take her maternity photos, but she ended up canceling, saying that she was having her, typical medical issues. The two didn't really have much communication, but on October 7th, 2020, that changed when Taylor asked Reagan to have a girls' day. Taylor was even Googling Reagan's home address as well. This was just 2 days after Taylor set Wade's home on fire, and she called in the bomb threat at the hospital that she was supposed to be induced at. No one was falling for this pregnancy anymore, and Taylor felt Wade growing more and more sick of her. She only reached out to Reagan despite not having contact for quite some time because she was literally scoping her out as a potential victim that she could murder and steal her baby from. She truly thought that she could just steal Reagan's baby and pass the baby off as her own, and that everything would be fine, that she'd have Wade running back into her arms, and that the two of them would just raise this baby together, and that no one would ever find out that she murdered someone to steal the baby. That was a level of delusion that Taylor was thinking as she searched for Reagan on Facebook. So Taylor and Reagan met at a Starbucks in Texarkana, and Taylor gave Reagan a gift for Braxlyn. After their girls' day, Reagan posted on Facebook and tagged Taylor saying, "So glad I got to see you today. Missed you bunches. Also, thank you for the sweet gift in Starbucks." To which Taylor replied, "You're so welcome. Glad you got your gift. Can't wait to see her in them. We need more girl days like today." Now, just a side note, this is where I was personally a little confused with the timeline because some sources say that Taylor and Reagan met at Reagan's house and that Taylor brought Reagan a Starbucks drink. Not that they met at Starbucks, but according to the court documents, Taylor and Reagan actually met at a Starbucks in Texarkana, and Taylor gave her a gift for Braxlyn. Anyways, on October 8th, they saw each other again. Taylor went to Reagan's home at around 8 p.m. after she and Wade had dinner and stayed at Reagan's house until around 9:30, 9:45 p.m. While she was with Reagan, Wade was running some errands, getting some parts for his car and for his trailer. He was making sure that everything looked good for the long drive that the two of them had the next day, because that's when he and Taylor were going to drive 4 hours to deliver hogs to a ranch. Now, back in September, Taylor already made up in her mind about wanting to murder a pregnant woman and kidnapping a baby. So she was thinking of ways to get Wade out of her way so she could do this without being interrupted. She had to think of a way to get him out of town so that he wouldn't be there for the birth of their baby. So she decided to text a rancher named Scott who buys hogs for clients to shoot, and she offered him 150 hogs. They negotiated a bit back and forth, but Scott kind of saw some red flags when Taylor said that she didn't know she needed the proper license to transport livestock, and on top of that, she also wanted all the money up front. It would be about $6,000 if Scott were to purchase the hogs that she was offering, so Scott was just like, no, I had like a bad feeling about her, so he declined the offer. A few days later, Taylor tried again to get him to accept the deal, but Scott was still like, no, I don't want your hogs, like, leave me alone. So now that Taylor had found her victim and basically put it in her mind that she was going to Reagan, she had no time to elaborate another scheme to get Wade out of the house and out of the way. So she lied to Wade and said that Scott did want to buy the hogs and said that on October 9th, Scott was expecting them to deliver the hogs. Taylor even went as far as to make some fake text messages to show Wade that Scott would be waiting for them at 8 o'clock in the morning. Taylor said that after their hog delivery, they could just like pop into a hospital in Idabel, Oklahoma to be induced and that then they would have their baby girl. Taylor said that it had to be in Idabel because that was out of the 60-mile radius that her evil mom Shauna said she would have eyes on. In reality, it was because Taylor had called the hospital and learned that the hospital would take anyone in, no questions asked, even if you weren't a patient. So she was like, perfect, like this is a hospital where I can go and like deliver my baby without people questioning it. So Wade sees these text messages and is like, perfect, I'm gonna get $6,000 to sell these hogs. I know it's so confusing. It's so insane how she continued to get away with this and continue to just make fake conversations and fake messages, and Wade just continued to buy her lies. Now going back to the night before, when Taylor was visiting Reagan and Wade was at home getting the trailer and the car ready to go deliver the hogs the next day, Taylor was hanging out with Reagan. They were just having casual conversation. At one point, the two of them actually moved into Reagan and Homer's bedroom to continue talking for about 45 minutes or so until Homer wanted to go to bed. So that's when Taylor and Reagan moved to Braxton's nursery and continued chatting about, the decor for the baby and about Taylor helping her decorate the nursery and things like that. Taylor also took this time to tell Reagan that she was overdue and that she was going to be induced the following morning, and she told Reagan that she wished her baby bump looked like hers. After some time, they ended the conversation, they called it a night, and Taylor left. When Taylor got home, she searched, if I delete a whole conversation on Facebook Messenger, will the other person still see the conversation? Taylor wanted to erase any proof of them talking about meeting up or having anything to do with her to cover her tracks because, again, she already made up her mind about murdering Reagan and taking her baby. She was also watching videos about postnatal care of a baby born at 35 weeks because Reagan was almost 35 weeks pregnant. That same day as well, Taylor purchased 2 burner phones, one for her and one for Wade, so that her evil mother Shauna wouldn't be able to trace her calls and couldn't interfere with her giving birth. She also asked her and Wade's neighbors to take care of their dogs for the majority of the following day, which was October 9th, and said that she would be back in the evening. So basically, Taylor was getting all of her ducks in a row because she knew that the next day was a day she'd do what she had been planning for so long. It turns out that back in October of 2019, Taylor literally searched when you plan to kill someone charges and conspiracy to commit murder. It's truly scary how long she had been planning this for, and all of her Google searches are just insane. Now, it seems like that night on October 8th, Taylor didn't sleep at all because that night between 3:11 and 3:30 in the morning, Taylor made 5 calls to the McCurtain County Hospital in Idabel, Oklahoma. Some of those calls were only a few seconds, but some lasted more than 5 to 6 minutes. I'm not really sure why she called. Maybe she called to let them know like, hey, I'm going to be going there tomorrow, or just called to like ask questions about it. I'm not really sure, but she also Googled the hospital 3 times. Shortly after this, at around 3:45 a.m., Wade woke up since they were going to make the 4-hour drive to meet Scott at 8 o'clock in the morning. But Taylor told Wade that she couldn't go with him. She's like, sorry, you're gonna have to go by yourself because I don't feel good. Wade was like, well, I can't really just leave you. If you don't feel good and you're about to give birth today, I probably shouldn't go either. But Taylor was like, don't worry, it's fine. I already registered at the hospital. Just meet me there by lunchtime and I'll have the baby by then. Wade didn't really feel good about this. Like, he just felt bad leaving Taylor behind, but Taylor reminded him of all the debt that he was in and was like, listen, we could use this $6,000. You need to go deliver the hogs and I'll go deliver our baby. So with this, Wade agreed and he was off. At 4:28 a.m., Taylor watched more videos about C-sections and vaginal births at 35 weeks. Then at around 5:26 in the morning, Taylor left in Wade's car, which was a 2009 Toyota Corolla. And then at 6:31 a.m., Wade called her on his burner phone, and that call lasted around 6 minutes. And then just a few minutes later, Taylor pulled into an Easy Mart right by Reagan's house. She put $10 of gas in and then purchased a McDonald's hash brown and coffee, despite her bank account literally being overdrawn. As for Reagan, Reagan, she had her last work shift at 9 a.m. before officially going on maternity leave and was going to drop her daughter Kinley off at daycare before her shift. So it's safe to assume that that morning Reagan pretty much spent the day just getting ready to go to work and drop her daughter off at daycare. A bus surveillance footage showed no one in Reagan's driveway at 7:22 in the morning. However, one of Reagan's neighbors, Patricia, saw an unfamiliar dark Toyota Corolla parked in front of the house between 7:30 a.m. and 7:40 a.m. I wasn't able to find exactly what Taylor said to Reagan about going into her house, or if Taylor just literally showed up unannounced or was like, "Hey Reagan, I was in the neighborhood and I wanted to hang out," or if she used the ruse of like showering at Reagan's house, because at this point Taylor and Wade no longer had like running water after the fire. So we're not really sure what excuse Taylor used to get inside the house, but somehow Taylor was now there at Reagan's house and was going to do what she thought would finally free her from her tangled lies. Before discussing what happened, let's go to Wade's perspective, because remember, Taylor literally set Wade on basically a wild goose chase that morning to keep him distracted and unaware of what she was really doing. So Wade arrived at Scott's ranch to deliver the hogs at around 7:35 in the morning, and of course, no one was expecting him. Scott already declined Taylor's offer twice. So when Wade got there, Wade was like, "Am I in the right place? Like, what's going on here?" And Scott was like, "I don't even know why you're here." They were both incredibly confused. Wade explained to him how he had these text messages between him and Taylor saying that he ordered these hogs and was going to pay him $6,000. And Scott is reading these messages and he's just like, "What is going on? I didn't order any hogs and that's not even my phone number." The fake messages that Taylor had written said, "Wade, this is Scott. I will see you both in the morning around 6:37. Taylor said checkmate out to Wade Griffin. Check total $6,100. I have 7 groups of hunters this weekend. Need those hogs tomorrow for sure. Turn 2 guys away today with hogs. Drive safe. I'll send address for GPS. Thanks, man. Signed, Scott." Scott's reading this message and he's like, "No, this is not me. That's not my phone number. And I also did not text this." But as he was reading the messages, he read the name Griffin because of Wade Griffin. And this is when a light went off in his head. He remembered speaking to a woman who had said her name was Taylor Griffin. And he pulled up the text messages on his phone to show Wade, "Look, I was speaking to your wife, Taylor, and I literally told her no, that I didn't want the hogs, so I have no idea why you're here." Now, when Wade sees this, he's thinking that this is probably Shauna, that Shauna was involved in this, that she set him up on this bogus deal to get him arrested since he was technically crossing state lines with livestock. So he was like, "Oh my God, Shauna set me up." And he was truly scared that any second he would be arrested for doing this. Wade was like, "I need to get out of here, but I also need to get rid of all of these hogs." Like, he was driving 150 hogs in the heat. So he tried negotiating with Scott to take them off his hands, and he finally agreed. Scott purchased the hogs for $2,500, and that was that. Wade left the ranch at around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, since their plan was to meet at the hospital in Idabel to, get induced and give birth, Wade was like, "Okay, I guess I need to go to the hospital." So he heads over to the hospital. He gets there a little bit after noon, and he approaches a nurse at the front desk and asks for Taylor's room number. He was ready to see Taylor give birth once and for all and to meet his baby girl. As soon as he said the name Taylor, the nurse's eyes widened, and without a word, she simply pointed down the hall. Wade thought, "All right, I'll just find her room then." As he walked down the hall, he saw officers approaching him, telling him to turn around and to put his hands on the wall. Wade froze. He was thinking to himself, is this because of the illegal hog transport that I just did? Was Shauna behind this? Like, why am I getting arrested? Police took him in handcuffs to the police station, and there he learned that Taylor was not pregnant, and that she was involved in the murder of 21-year-old Reagan Hancock, that she had cut her unborn baby out of her. Wade was just very confused. He just couldn't believe what police were telling him. Now, let's go back to Taylor's perspective, because again, all of this is happening basically at the same time. I'm just going to put a trigger warning for this part because what I'm about to describe next is very, very disturbing. So, after Taylor arrived at Reagan's house that morning pretending to simply stop by to say hi or to drop something off, she brutally attacked Reagan and cut her unborn baby out of her. Taylor was speeding and driving erratically to get to the hospital, and because of that, a cop was coming after her. Trooper Leonzel saw Taylor nearly hit a pickup truck, nearly hit a bicyclist as well, fell and even hit a hawk. That's how fast she was going. At 9:36 a.m., Taylor called 911 frantically crying and told the dispatcher, Katie, I have a state trooper behind me and I need an ambulance because I started having my baby. She's telling the dispatcher that she needs to get to Idabel ASAP because that's where her doctor is. Taylor pulls over while she's literally on the phone with the dispatcher, and as she's talking to the dispatcher, she's also like waving and hollering at the trooper who's approaching her. She tells the trooper, we gotta get to Idabel, that's where my doctor is. She begs him to take her and her baby to the hospital. Leonzo gets up to the driver door and sees a newborn in Taylor's lap and sees that the umbilical cord is still attached to the baby and that the other end is tucked into Taylor's leggings, which doesn't really match up with what she was telling the 911 dispatcher because she was telling the dispatcher, I'm in the middle of giving birth. Yet the trooper was seeing the baby on her lap, so clearly she wasn't in the middle of giving birth. She had already given birth. The dispatcher is now asking her if the baby has any green stuff in their nose or mouth and gives Taylor instructions on how to do CPR. Taylor follows the instructions and is shouting, come on, Clancy, come on. Leonzel says that they should head to St. Michael's or to the Titus Medical Center since that's where most emergency transports go to. But Taylor insists that she needs to get to the hospital in Idabel because St. Michael's hurt her last baby. And also because her doctor and her husband are already at the Idabel hospital waiting for her there. She is frantic and she's still on the phone with 911 crying that she just gave birth and that she needs help. Leonzo notices that the baby looks still, that the baby doesn't look like they're breathing or moving, and notices that Taylor is really bloody all over the place. Leonzo asks how old the baby is and Taylor tells him 35 minutes, which again contradicts what she was telling the 911 dispatcher. She's still yelling at Leonzo that if he doesn't put them both in his car, she will drive to Idabel herself, and this whole scene was just completely chaotic. Now, while all of this is going on, a woman named Amanda, who works across the street from where Taylor was pulled over, sees the chaos, and she sees that something is going on with this lady and that there's a baby on Taylor's lap. Amanda's a nurse, so she's like, listen, maybe I can help. And she pulls over and Googles how to do infant CPR just to kind of like refresh her memory in case she needed it. Amanda approached Taylor and saw Braxlin was blue around her mouth and that she was very cold. She immediately began doing chest compressions while she was still on Taylor's lap. While doing this, Amanda noticed that something was off. Taylor was telling her that she just gave birth to her baby unexpectedly, but Amanda noticed that Braxlin wasn't covered in blood or vernix, which is like a protective film to protect the baby's skin. Childbirth is also normally very messy, but this time it appeared as if Braxlin was wiped clean, which made no sense and didn't coincide with Taylor's story. However, Amanda decided to put her confusions to the side and she was like, listen, I can't even think about this right now. All I need to think about is focusing on these chest compressions and just making sure that this baby survives. She continued to do the chest compressions until the EMT finally arrived and they took over. The EMT asked Taylor when her due date was and Taylor said the 30th, leaving them to believe that the baby came early. But Taylor was like, no, not the 30th of October, the 30th of September. Immediately, Amanda and the EMT looked at each other knowing that this baby was way too small to be overdue. So to explain this, Taylor was like, listen, I was at the Walmart in New Boston, Texas, which is where Reagan lives, and I suddenly felt pressure, so I rushed into my car and I gave birth while I was driving. That's how this happened. Taylor was still frantic while talking about this. She was pointing and yelling at everyone, telling them that she needed to go to the Idabel hospital, that she doesn't care about St. Michael's or Titus Medical Center. She doesn't care if that's where the emergency transports go to. She needed to go to Idabel and only Idabel. When the ambulance arrived and took Braxlin off her lap, Taylor was walking to the police car slowly and almost limping as if she just went through something traumatic. And once she was sitting inside the police unit, she was crying and looking down in disgust, asking, can I get this stuff off me? I want this blood off me. Amanda went to go get some paper towels and some water bottles to clean her with and for Taylor to drink. And while Taylor was cleaning herself, she was muttering things such as, this grosses me out and this disgusts me, and just like making gagging noises. Amanda also heard Taylor say at one point, she's all of me. Amanda and the off-duty EMT decided to take some trauma shears and cut off Taylor's yoga pants to check up on her. And as they were cutting the yoga pants, the placenta came falling out of her leggings and onto the car's floorboard. EMS collected it along with the umbilical cord and they placed it in a biohazard bag, and Amanda and the off-duty EMT changed her into some PJs that they found in Taylor's car, and she was taken on a gurney to the ambulance. Taylor was still crying and she was asking about the baby, and she just appeared very confused to the staff. It was all just a very weird situation, but Amanda said that she 100% believed Taylor and even asked for her phone number to check up on her later and to also check up on what was going on with the baby. Amanda also moved Taylor's car to a nearby parking lot after she was taken in the ambulance. It's honestly crazy how helpful Amanda was. Like, this was a complete stranger and she was here like cutting her yoga pants, doing chest compressions on her baby, moving her car. Like, Amanda truly is just such a kind person. So while Taylor is in the ambulance, one of the EMTs named Kelly said that Taylor's vitals looked normal, that he was worried about her hemorrhaging but saw no signs of anything wrong. Kelly felt really bad for Taylor. I mean, he had lost a child himself, so he understood the fear that Taylor was going through, thinking that her baby might not make it. He even held her hand and comforted her all the way to the hospital. Another EMT that testified was Elton. Now, he said that while in the ambulance, Braxton was intubated, given epinephrine, and that they got a heartbeat back. Elton thought that Braxton was going to make it. During his testimony, he clarified that if a baby was stillborn, there is no way to get a pulse back, which is a very important detail that we'll go back to when we discuss the trial. After seeing that the amniotic fluid on Braxton was dry and flaky, he also realized that there was just no way that Taylor had just given birth. There was just no way that Braxton was just born. It just didn't make sense, and this is when he began to doubt Taylor giving birth in the car. Now, around the same time that all of this is going on the side of the road with Taylor, the same dispatcher who took Taylor's call at 9:36 in the morning, named Katie, takes another call at 10:15 in the morning, but this time it's from Reagan's mom. Reagan's mom is on the other end screaming, help me, my daughter's been murdered." Katie tries asking for more information, but Jessica is just frantic and in disbelief. She's saying, "There's blood everywhere, oh my babies, oh my God." Katie tells Jessica that police are on their way, and Jessica is heard asking Reagan's stepdad, Marcus, "Did they hurt her? I can't do this. My baby. I can't tell what happened. Did they hurt her? What did they do? There's so much blood. There's so much blood." You can also hear Kinley in the background asking, "Where's mommy?" It's a very distressing 911 call, and Katie hangs up when police finally arrive. So how did Jessica find Reagan's body? Well, around 3 hours earlier, Reagan's husband, Homer, was getting some weird text messages from Reagan while he was at work. She was texting Homer saying that she just wants to be happy and that it's not working out anymore. Homer was caught completely off guard by these text messages. They just didn't sound like anything that Reagan would ever say. At 8:33 in the morning, Homer replied, "I love you," but Reagan never replied. At 9:34 a.m., one of their neighbors, Brittany Thompson, messaged Homer on Facebook to give him a heads up that their black lab had gotten out and that their garage door was open. Her mother went to the back door inside the garage to knock on it, and it opened slightly. However, they decided not to go inside. They did call out, but no one responded back, so they just walked away. Then her and her mom lifted the dog over their fence, so he was safe in their backyard now, and they left thinking that maybe Reagan or Homer left the garage door open by accident. As soon as Homer hears this, he's very confused. He's like, "We never leave the garage door open. We always shut it." This is when he started to get a very bad feeling. Homer tries calling Reagan multiple times, but got no response. Then he decides to call Reagan's mother, Jessica, to have her go check on Reagan while he drove home from work. Because again, he just had a bad gut feeling that something was wrong. So he literally leaves work to go check on his wife. And in the meantime, he asked Jessica, like, "Hey, can you meet me at our house? Like, I just have a bad feeling." Jessica said yes, that she would go check on Reagan, but first she stopped at Kinley's daycare because she knew that if Kinley wasn't there, then something was truly wrong. At the daycare, Jessica arrived asking for Kinley, but when the worker came back and told her that Kinley wasn't there, fear took over Jessica's body completely. She rushed to her car and she called Reagan's stepdad as she pulled up to the police station, which was on the way to Reagan's house, but Marcus said that she should go first to Reagan's to see if her car was there before contacting police. So Jessica's like, okay, sounds like a plan, and she heads over to Reagan's house, and as she approaches the house, she sees that the garage door is still open. As she got closer, Jessica saw streaks of driveway. She got out of the car thinking that maybe their dog had gotten hurt and that's why there was blood there, but then the streaks just didn't look like a simple injury. There were more streaks as she got closer and approached the door inside the garage. A bloody fingerprint on the doorknob caught her eye. Using her shirt, Jessica carefully turned the doorknob and pushed the door open, only to quickly step back to the side of a bloody shoe print on the floor. Everything went silent. Jessica's stomach was in knots. She hesitated to open the door further, fearing what she might find inside. Jessica said she told herself, if my baby's in there and she's hurt, I've got to get to her. So without giving it another thought, Jessica opened the door and saw a horrific scene. Reagan was facing away, face down on the floor, with her left arm stretched over her head, her right arm was under her forehead, and her blonde hair was stained with blood. There was blood everywhere. The house was a mess. The kitchen was a disaster. Jessica couldn't process what she was seeing and said, although she knew her daughter was most likely gone, she still shouted, Reagan, Reagan, it's mama. Talk to me, please. However, Reagan wasn't moving and she wasn't answering. After this, Jessica just backed out of the house, screaming and crying, falling to her knees. Jessica couldn't comprehend what she just saw. She just saw her baby in a state that no mother should see their child, a state no one should ever be in. Jessica called 911, and like I said earlier, she was screaming that her daughter had been murdered. Now, at this time, Reagan's stepdad Marcus arrived shortly after with his best friend, Chris. Marcus was ready to go inside and see what was going on, but Jessica was begging him not to enter the house because she just didn't want him to see Reagan in that state. You know, no one should see their loved one like that. Marcus just couldn't stay still. He had to see if he could help Reagan in any way, so he went inside. Only a few seconds later, Marcus just rushed back out with his hand over his mouth, asking, why? Marcus collapsed from the shock and began having chest pains. It was all just too much. It was an absolute nightmare. It was literally every parent's worst fear. Marcus and Jessica were asking themselves where Kinley was, but neither of them could bear going back inside and seeing Reagan again, or possibly finding Kinley in the same state. Chris decided to step up, the family friend, and he tried entering the house by the front door instead of going through the garage, but the front door was locked. Marcus was calling out for Kinley's name, and they did end up hearing a faint response, and that's when Marcus shouted to Chris that Kinley was alive and that she was inside. Chris rushed back over and he entered the home through the garage. He unfortunately had to step over Reagan's body and the pools of blood in order to get to the bedrooms. He was calling out Kinley's name and he actually found her in the back bedroom. She was under a blanket in her bed and looked up frightened, but ran to Chris when she saw that it was him, one of her grandpa's friends. Chris picked her up and placed a blanket over her head so that he could get her out of the house without her having to see anything. By the time Reagan's husband, Homer, arrived, there was already crime scene tape put up all around his home. Then he was told that Reagan was gone. Marcus says that it was a struggle to keep Homer from going in the house, but it was now a crime scene and they couldn't go in and risk interfering with it. DNA swabs were taken from them and photos of the bottom of their shoes were taken as well. At 10:35 a.m., Homer called Brittany, the neighbor who called him earlier about their dog and about the garage. And Brittany was like, listen, I'm at Walmart. Like, what's going on? And that's when Homer told her, my wife is dead. Brittany was in shock since her and her mother were literally just there putting the dog back in the yard, not knowing that Reagan was dead inside the entire time. Going back to Taylor, she had finally arrived at the hospital with Braxton. She started filling out the paperwork and she listed herself as the baby's mother while filling out the admission forms, and she listed Wade as a father. She wrote that her last period was in December of 2019 and she made a note that she planned on breastfeeding. Now, the medical staff that was attending Taylor just wasn't buying her story. While they were doing their checkups, they just noticed that this wasn't making sense. For example, the nurses couldn't locate Taylor's uterus with their hands when they pushed on her abdomen. Then they did an ultrasound, which then confirmed that Taylor did not have a uterus, and they also did an HCG blood test to see if Taylor even had the pregnancy hormone, which can actually be present for up to 6 weeks after delivery. So they did the blood test, and the test showed that Taylor did not have this hormone. She also had blood between her thighs, but there was no blood coming from her area. So she's coming into this hospital saying that she just gave birth, yet she doesn't have her uterus, she doesn't have the pregnancy hormone, she's not bleeding from her, private area. So the medical staff was seeing all of this put together and they were like, this doesn't make sense. They just knew that this baby wasn't Taylor's. As for baby Braxlyn, Dr. William Herron recommended she be transferred to the Oklahoma Children's Hospital to be better cared for after examining her condition, but that would take 4 to 5 hours, even by air, due to poor weather conditions, and Braxlyn's condition meant that she would not survive the flight. Medical staff were doing everything that they could to keep baby Braxlyn alive. She barely had a pulse, but in the end, they determined that her condition was not compatible with life, and they made the decision to remove Braxlyn from all life-saving measures. Braxlyn was declared dead at 1:22 p.m. She suffered extensive brain damage from lack of oxygen, and she also had bruises on her head from the intense blows to Reagan's belly from Taylor. There were also bruises on the placenta and the umbilical cord, which could have happened when Taylor pulled them. Braxlyn's cause of death was determined to be traumatic extraction from the uterus in association with maternal homicide. Braxlyn spent her first and last moments in the arms of the woman who killed her mother and who ultimately killed her as well. It's heartbreaking, it's gut-wrenching, it's evil, it's so many other things that I can't even put into words. Braxlyn weighed nearly 7 pounds and just under 21 inches long. Braxlyn would have been a perfectly healthy baby if she had been delivered normally. A nurse was crying while holding Braxlyn's hand when she gave her last breath, and as a heart monitor flatlined. The tragedy was just too much to bear, and the hospital staff was just so shaken up. Taylor deprived Braxlyn of her first moments, which should have been in the arms of Raegan. She deprived her of a rich life surrounded by her loved ones and the chance at life. Now, back at Raegan's house, investigator Chad Ford learned Raegan was pregnant, and he tried seeing Raegan's belly without disturbing the crime scene, but he saw that her belly was sunken in instead of round and firm. When he learned that she was 35 weeks pregnant, he called LifeNet, which is an ambulance, to the scene for them to determine if the baby was still inside her belly and if her baby was still alive. Jared Nall from LifeNet turned Raegan's body over, and that's when they saw that she was cut open and that there was no baby. Chad says that this moment is where everything broke loose. He put out a call to every hospital, to every clinic, and to every women's health facility within 100 miles that a premature baby was missing. Now, back at the hospital where Taylor was, they were now getting word that a 6-week premature baby was missing. That's when the two cases finally connected for the staff, that the baby the nurses tried saving and that Taylor claimed to be the mother of was Reagan's. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation Special Agent Chad Dansby was called right away, and he interviewed Taylor while she was still in the hospital bed. The body cam footage is just insane. It's so infuriating. The way that Taylor was acting was just so stupid. Like, she was acting all surprised and confused, and it just made my blood boil because she was trying to pass this baby off as her own, knowing that she just committed a horrible, horrible thing hours earlier. Now, I will link the full interrogation YouTube video down below from the channel EWU Body Cam if you guys want to watch the full video. So Taylor tells them the whole story about Wade going to deliver the hogs and that she couldn't go because she was having contractions and that he was on the way to meet her there. When Chad asked about her not allowing nurses to check her, she said, but they did an ultrasound. And that's when a nurse clarified that they needed to check for hemorrhaging if she did give birth and that they just wanted to check if she was okay.
Taylor Parker. Taylor, hey, my name's Chad Dansby. I'm the oldest meat agent up here, and I heard you brought your baby in. Did you give birth on the side of the road or something?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Where was that here? In Kirk County?
No, it was in DeKalb.
DeKalb, down in Texas?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. So what happened this morning? Did you just go into labor on the side of the road or something?
No, I was supposed to ride with my fiance, and we sell, we own a whole buying facility, and we were gonna come through here, but I was having contractions and stuff and wasn't feeling good, so I stayed at home and told him we would just meet here after he dropped the hogs at 7. and he got tied up. I mean, he's on his way.
At this point, Taylor is still acting innocent and confused and asking what's wrong until Chad says that he's just going to be upfront with her about this conversation that he had with the DA down in Bowie County. He says that they are working on a case and that they know that she had a hysterectomy and that she did not give birth this morning. Taylor begins to stutter and is like, what do you mean? Chad repeats himself and Taylor raises her voice just a little, saying, I just told you what happened. Chad says that as soon as an exam is done on her, the doctor will be able to tell that she's lying, that she wasn't pregnant, she was never pregnant, and that she did not give birth.
What did you have? Did you have a boy or a girl?
A girl.
A girl. Okay.
You got a name yet?
Clancy Gale.
Clancy Gale.
That's a nice name.
It is a nice
name. Here's the deal. I'm just gonna be upfront with you. I've been talking to the DA down in Bowie County, and they've been working on a case down there. And we know that you had a hysterectomy some time back, and that you claimed to be pregnant for a while, but that you really weren't. So we're trying to figure out where this baby came from. But you didn't give birth this morning.
What do you mean?
That's what I just said. You didn't give birth this morning. And we want to know where this baby came from. So what happened?
I just told y'all what happened.
Okay.
Taylor's like, okay, fine, do the exam. They kind of go back and forth for a bit, and eventually the doctor performs a vaginal exam and confirms that Taylor did not give birth to the baby. After this, Chad tells Taylor straight up about Raegan and tries getting her to confess. Taylor then kind of starts to confess in a way. She says that her head has been hurting lately and that she had a stroke back in 2015, which again we know is not true. Then she admits that yes, she was at Raegan's house earlier that morning and that the only reason she went there is because Raegan offered her a shower. Again, Taylor and Wade's shower was not working after the fire. So she's like, I went to Raegan's house to shower, and then all of a sudden, Raegan called me a liar about my pregnancy, and the two of us got into a physical altercation. As she's saying this, Taylor begins crying. She puts her hands over her head, saying she doesn't really remember what happened next. She kind of remembers that Raegan cut her hand with a knife, and that Raegan fell on the knife because she shoved her. Then Raegan threatened to kill her if she touched her again, then began slapping herself and mocking Taylor, saying that police would think she did this to her. Taylor also said that Raegan hit her head on a table, that she was bleeding a lot from the knife that she fell on, and that she began pushing as if she wanted to give birth. So she cut the baby out, which was still in the sack, and Taylor ripped it open and began hitting Braxton on the back. Taylor begins crying more and just tells police that she doesn't know why she did this. Now, everything that Taylor is saying does not make sense. Like, there's no way Raegan did this. Like, there's no way Raegan insinuated a fight. There's no way that she was hitting herself and did all of this. Like, Taylor is so disgusting for lying about Raegan in that way and making her out to be this like bad person. In the end, police were like, listen, we know you did this, and they arrested Taylor. She was taken to a local jail and she was facing 2 counts of murder and 1 of kidnapping and had a $5 million bond. Taylor's car was searched as well, and inside they found a loaded, a blood-stained blanket and pillow, and Taylor's bloody leggings and underwear that were cut off when she was pulled over. Texas Ranger Stacy McNeil said that the underwear had a foul smell on it as if someone had defecated. There was also a diaper bag with blood on it, which inside had newborn clothes, some still with the tags attached, baby blankets, and diapers. There was also a syringe with animal tranquilizer found in Taylor's purse as well, but it was not used on Raegan. Investigators didn't find any of the murder weapons though. They didn't find any hammers or scalpels. Also missing was Raegan's cell phone, which investigators believe Taylor got rid of as well. DNA testing showed that all of the blood from the crime scene and from Taylor's car belonged to Raegan and Braxton. None of it was Taylor's. She basically got away from this terrible crime unscathed. In addition to searching Taylor's car, Texas Ranger Stacy also searched Taylor's home. She describes Taylor's home as looking normal, as having the type of home that one would have if they were expecting a baby girl. There were toys everywhere, a crib, a baby seat in Wade's car, and a baby swing. Taylor had this entire house ready for this new baby. The one thing that Stacy did not find was a fake baby belly or packaging for the fake belly or the fake ultrasound, so Taylor probably got rid of those as well. They also did not find Raegan's phone there either, nor the murder weapon, so investigators believe that Taylor got rid of all of these items before she got pulled over by police. After she murdered Reagan, and before driving to the hospital, Taylor actually headed north to a location close to the Red River. While there, at 9:25 a.m., she used her phone to look up directions to Idabel. This detour to the river extended her journey from Reagan's house to the traffic stop by around 12 minutes. During those 12 minutes, Taylor could have disposed of some of the evidence either in the river or the nearby woods before being pulled over, but nothing has ever been found despite extensive searches. As for the placenta that Taylor had stuffed down her pants, Dallas medical examiner Dr. Stephen Hastings indicated that it was removed violently from Reagan and that there were even fragments of Reagan's purple press-on nails embedded in the placenta. He said, quote, "It's hard for me to imagine another scenario where her fingernails would end up in her own placenta if she weren't putting her fingernails in alive to essentially protect herself and keep her baby from being extracted." There was also hair and grass on the placenta, but it wasn't confirmed who it belonged to. With this, it was determined that Reagan was alive when Taylor was cutting Braxton out of her. Once word got around to the community about what happened to Reagan and her beautiful baby Braxton, the community began showing up. They began leaving items at Reagan's home, such as stuffed animals and sunflowers. A fundraiser was also made for Homer and Kinley by various local businesses. Homer's work actually made a PayPal pool for the family, and in just 3 days, they raised nearly $14,000 and had donations from all over the world, as far as even from Australia. Local business owner Tanner from Extreme Detail organized a car wash fundraiser for the family, and a t-shirt company called Southern Dimples Customs was raffling off custom tumblers, straw toppers, t-shirts, coasters, and other items as well to raise money for the family. It's incredible how they all came together to help the family and show them all of the support. A prayer vigil was held on October 16th, and Reagan and Braxton's funeral was held the following day on Saturday, October 17th. During the service, friends and family shared fond memories of Reagan, highlighting her sense of humor, her ability to both be tough and gentle, and her dedication to ensuring her family's well-being, even working until close to giving birth, despite having swollen ankles and needing to rest. She was all about her family, and that's just what mattered most to her. She would get so angry if anyone ever talked about how young she was to be a mom, because she always gave 125% to Kinley and was going to give Braxton that same unconditional love. Jessica spoke out during this time and said, quote, "Our family is our family, the heart and soul of us, and a big piece of that's gone and we can never get it back. Everybody says you can have memories. Well, you don't just want to have memories, you want to have your baby, and we're never going to meet Braxton. We're in pieces. I'd never wish this on anyone." Jessica says that the night before Reagan's death, Reagan was telling her how excited she was for her second daughter and how she felt like Braxton was going to be there early. She even packed her hospital bag ready just in case, and Jessica just wants people to remember that Reagan was a good person and that there is still good in the world. Reagan and Braxton were buried and laid to rest, and their spirits will forever be intertwined and kept alive in their family's memories. I pray that they are resting peacefully. After investigators examined the crime scene, they had more questions and just even more doubts about Taylor's version of events. She changed her story again and said that after she went to go put gas and went to McDonald's, she got a really bad headache and pulled over into a parking lot. She said that she tilted her seat back as if she was going to go to sleep, and that's when all of a sudden Reagan began calling her and telling her to go over to use her shower. Not only did she insist that she come over to use her shower, but she also insisted that she come over because they needed to talk. So Taylor drove over there, and once she arrived, Reagan apparently scratched her and began grabbing her and hollering at her. So Taylor got scared and tried leaving, but Reagan shut the garage door. Then Taylor said she pushed Reagan out of self-defense, causing her to fall and hit her head on the car and fall to the garage floor. Investigators were trying to get her to explain how the fight moved from the garage to inside the home, and Taylor just kept saying different things. She wasn't giving a straight answer as to what happened, like Taylor's stories were just not making sense. Regardless of all the versions of what happened, she was adamant that Reagan began the physical altercation. She said Reagan even pulled a knife out from the kitchen drawer and poked her with it, which isn't true since no knife was found at the scene, and Taylor was completely fine. There was no poke to her, there was nothing like that. The only injury that she had was a scratch to her chest. So again, Taylor just wasn't giving them a straight answer about how the fight began or how it happened, and Taylor is saying that she doesn't even remember how she took Braxton out either. She just said that she only remembers taking Braxton out and that Reagan begged her to get help for the baby when Taylor told Reagan that Braxton wasn't breathing. She said that Kinley witnessed the bloody scene and that Taylor even screamed at her to leave at one point, to which Kinley ran back crying to her room. That just broke my heart even more to know that Kinley witnessed this and heard her mother get murdered and possibly saw her mother get murdered. It's just so unfair. Like, why is Taylor just the most evil person ever? It just makes me so angry. Taylor ended this story by saying that Reagan was alive when she left the house with Braxlin. Taylor really wasn't saying much to investigators, but 2 months after Taylor was arrested, she was sharing details about the crime to other inmates. According to one inmate who was serving time for a probation violation, Taylor said that she first tried using Reagan's own kitchen knives to cut Braxlin out, but after she realized that they weren't sharp enough, she went out to her car for her scalpel from her medical kit that she kept, since again, she was always going around saying that she was a nurse. So she grabs her scalpel, she cut Braxlin out, and even held Braxlin up to Reagan's cheek, and as if she was talking to Braxlin, she looked at Reagan and said, "Tell mama bye," before leaving, which is just such an insane thing to say. Like, again, we don't really know the truth of what happened that day. Taylor has told so many different stories, so this is just one version that she was telling an inmate in prison. Now, the inmate who shared that story sent a letter detailing all of this to the DA in an attempt to have her probation reinstated, but ultimately it didn't work, so a lot of people don't really know if Taylor did tell the inmate this or if the inmate was just kind of using that to help herself get on probation. So again, just kind of take that story how you please. Preparation for Taylor's trial was very intense, and the volume of work was just overwhelming, just given the amount of lies and characters and just things that the legal team had to unpack. Bowie County First Assistant District Attorney Kelly Crisp, Bowie County Assistant District Attorney Lauren Richards had their legal team working 7 days a week for 10 months straight in order to prepare for this trial. Kelly said, quote, "As we prepare a case for trial, nearly every witness and family member we meet is dealing with the most traumatic and most difficult circumstance they have ever encountered. There is a genuine pain and loss that they are working through in each of the conversations. Most people have no idea how much preparation and work goes into a trial like this. People see us up there talking to the jury and think that's it. Hardly. There are hundreds or thousands of hours of preparation and a team of people helping us." It was a lot to go through, but finally her trial began in September of 2022, and Taylor pled not guilty. Prosecutors were seeking the death penalty due to the heinous and premeditated nature of the crimes and because Taylor literally showed no remorse. Taylor's defense was arguing that Braxlin was stillborn, trying to dismiss the kidnapping charge, which would change Taylor's capital murder charge to only a murder charge. But doctors confirmed that they regained a pulse, which wouldn't be possible if Braxlin was stillborn. Taylor's mental state was also being discussed on both sides. I'll touch on some expert testimonies briefly. Let's first talk about the defense's medical experts that were brought in to testify. These doctors who evaluated Taylor focused on her childhood trauma and social factors that could have led to Taylor being a pathological liar and killer. They clarified that absolutely none of this was a justification for Taylor's heinous crimes, but that it could be a possible explanation. Now, as for the prosecution, they brought in forensic doctor Michael, who reviewed all of the evidence in Taylor's case and said, quote, "I was looking for some sort of mental deterioration that would account for that, but instead I saw that she stuck to her plan and that there was no remorse afterwards. In this case, there's nothing regarding any mental illness and nothing regarding intoxication, and Miss Parker falls in the category of fetal abductors, which are rare but fall into a class of women who don't have a mental illness. The murders are planned. They're premeditated. They have plans for after." Prosecutor Kelly said that there is nothing wrong with Taylor other than that she fits cluster B personality disorders. That's it. She has no neurological deficit that made her commit these crimes. Taylor knew exactly what she was doing. In court, she even did something so incredibly cruel and what seemed very intentional. She wore a sunflower mask in a pre-trial hearing, knowing that those were Reagan's favorite flowers. She was forcing Reagan's family to see her wearing the sunflowers, and everyone just felt like that was a very calculated and just cruel move that she did. After many testimonies and evidence presented to the jury, which consisted of 6 men and 6 women, they found Taylor guilty after only just over an hour of deliberating, and Taylor was sentenced to death row on November 9th, 2022, making Taylor only one of 7 women on death row in the state of Texas as of November 2022. Now, during the sentencing, no one was present from Taylor's family. During the victim impact statements, Reagan's younger sister, Emily, spoke out and said, "You need to understand what you took from me and my family. No more celebrating her birthday. I was barely 19 when I got the call that my sister was gone. She will never be my maid of honor. If I visit my sister, I have to go to a grave graveyard and see a headstone, I will never get a text or phone call from her again. Jessica also gave a statement and said, "My baby was alive, still fighting for her baby when you tore her open and ripped her baby from her stomach in front of her baby girl. You watched her die. You did not care about Braxlin either, spending so much time making sure you would not get caught. We all know you think this is about you. She was one of the very few people on this earth that cared about you. So every time you think to yourself, oh, poor me, nobody cares about me, know that's the truth. I will continue to remind people, the world, how evil you are the rest of your life, however short that may be. But only if I hear mention of your name. Otherwise, I will not speak of you, only of my beautiful baby girl Raegan and grandbaby Braxlin, who were a light God will continue to use in this dark world. You took their breaths, but you did not get their beauty and light that will shine for years and years to come." Homer also gave a statement, but could not read it himself, but it said, "I'll never get to hear my baby said, 'I love you, Daddy.' And anytime Kinley wants to see her mommy, we load up and go out to the gravesite." After this happened, he moved into his parents' house with Kinley after Reagan's death and had to start life all over again. He was heartbroken at the loss of his precious wife and his baby that he never got to meet. My heart just truly breaks for everybody in Reagan's family, all of her friends, just everybody that was affected by this. I mean, so many lives were ruined by what Taylor did, and to this day, she still doesn't understand and still isn't taking responsibility, which just makes things even more frustrating and just so terrible. I do hope that Kinley, Emerson, and Trey grow up happy and that they do have a great support system to cope with this, along with other loved ones who are also healing from the tragedy. My heart goes out to Reagan's family, and I send my deepest condolences. This is all just so scary. I was reading up on this, and according to Harvard School of Public Health, they said that women who are pregnant in the US or who have recently given birth are more likely to die from being murdered, and that homicide deaths among pregnant women are more prevalent than deaths from hypertensive disorders, hemorrhaging, or sepsis, which is just absolutely frightening to think about. Now, these homicides are mostly linked to domestic violence and firearms. However, they are also linked to what's called fetal abduction. Now, it's important to note that fetal abduction is really rare, but that cases of fetal abduction are currently rising in the US. Fetal abduction is when women become so desperate to have a baby that they'll kill for it. There's been cases where women will stalk patients entering or leaving women's clinics who are pregnant, just like Taylor was doing, to then later abduct those women and take their babies. These criminals will sometimes pretend that they are pregnant but either gaining weight, buying fake bellies, or just showing up with a baby one day and saying, "Oh look, it's a miracle." It's very scary. I've heard of another case where a pregnant woman was trying to buy baby clothes on Facebook and went to go meet with the seller, who then killed her and took her baby. According to the FBI's Crimes Against Children unit, the women who commit these crimes are usually between the ages of 17 and 33. They do have some tips and things that people should be aware of so that they can protect themselves and protect their children. Let me just read you guys a couple of the tips that they have, but I will link the full article down below so you guys can read more about it. They said, as much as you want to tell the world about your new arrival, the Crimes Against Children unit recommends against displaying the traditional pink or blue balloons or yard signs welcoming the baby. These are literally flags alerting a potential abductor of an available infant. Another tip is that new or expectant mothers and family members should always be aware of their surroundings and who they encounter. They should avoid giving strangers any personal information if someone attempts to start a conversation that involves the infant. Asking too many personal questions may be a warning sign. As I said, I will include more tips down below, but this is a very scary topic and it's a very serious issue. It's really sad how we have to be alert about this. You know, pregnancy should be this wonderful, peaceful experience, and it's frightening how there are people out there just lurking, you know, waiting to take someone's baby. Again, it's just so important to be aware of this and to just be careful out there. With that, that is pretty much everything I have for today's video. Thank you so much, familia, for sitting here and taking the time to listen to me. I know this video was extremely long. There was just so much information to go over, but again, I just really appreciate you guys being here and for taking the time to listen to today's video. Don't forget to subscribe if you guys are new to the familia, and if you guys haven't joined the Familia newsletter yet, please don't forget to do so by clicking the link down below. We are dropping a new teaser to the Familia newsletter members soon, so make sure to sign up so you guys can see the next teaser of what's coming soon to this channel. If there are any other cases that you guys would like me to cover, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. This video took me like 2 days to film because my camera kept like overheating from filming so long. My lights were dying. It was just like such a journey to film this, but I feel like it was such an important video to put out because again, it does bring awareness to fetal abduction. And I think more people need to be alert about this and realize that unfortunately the world is scary out there and we just need to be careful. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and drink my poppy and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, familia.